All right. We are finally live. Welcome back to Reason Answers.
It's as good as waging war against Allah and His Messenger.
We'll get Mary here in a second, but I'm glad that you're joining us today. Sorry about the delay there. My streaming software vMix installed or tried to install an update a couple days ago. It crashed while doing that. Yesterday I went to stream. It was having some issues, but I got through it, got it to work. Today I could not get it to work, so I ended up having to reinstall everything. I see that my camera is like super crappy, not working properly, but hey, at least we are live, right? At least you can hear me just fine. Maybe I'll mess with the camera, maybe not. Maybe you'll just have to deal with it doing like 2 frames a second or whatever it's doing. And
what just happened? Oh, okay. Nope, the animation isn't working. What just
yep, and that went. That's weird.
Whoops. Hopefully we'll be able.
Oh, well, there we're back. Okay, so I think it just didn't call up. They couldn't find the animation file. I think is actually what happened. So then it was just black, as a result of that. Hopefully, other things work. I'll have to look at the thank you money. Yep. Oh, it says offline. Yeah, it says offline. I don't know why that clip is not. It didn't connect to that particular clip, but since it was an offline clip, it's supposed to play it for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. It just played a black screen for that amount of time. Normally, right? Most of it's translucent, so you still see us behind it, but now it's just solid black. So know what happened there. If people donate today, well, I guess you'll get a black screen there for a second. I will try to fix that here in a minute. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about science.
Not science. To hell with science.
We're going to be watching this. Well, maybe we'll be talking about science.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching this video that I found on YouTube. I think it was in a search. It was certainly a video that YouTube recommended to me in one way or another on how Albert Einstein proves Islam. So naturally, right, since he proved Islam, he must have converted, and you see some photographic evidence in the thumbnail there or something like that. I do have to welcome Mary to the stream.
She has some scary intellectual abilities to pour through massive amounts of sources and information, and is pretty brutal. If she weren't so busy doing other stuff, I think she would be wrecking Islam by herself. I actually think she'd be the best at making the case against you and Jay on the planet.
Well, great. That's great. I'm happy to do it.
So what is the update on your proposed debate with Robert?
I've gone through a good portion of his book. I need to finish going through it because I don't just read it. I have to check his sources, check other sources, check other things. Like, what are the arguments someone's making? I can't talk to someone about their arguments if I don't know what arguments they're making. And that requires more than, because even a book like that's kind of a summary of his position, and there are things on the basis of that you have to go into and go like, okay, he says this and he's citing this person. All right, what is this person saying? Why are they arguing it? What's their evidence? That kind of thing. So it is much more than just reading the book. I am, however, reading it with like tons and tons of little sticky notes. It's like, check this, do this, do this. So as soon as I have finished reading it, we will go for that. And actually, my big project is wrecking Islam in a different way. So that has been, even with the translation and everything else I've been doing, like, all of this is preparing for something much larger, which is why I've put so much work into reconstructing the early sources. So I like that, Snoopy. But yeah, that's what I have to do. I have to check the why for Robert's sources too.
So look for that coming up soon. Don't have a date yet, obviously, but we will definitely be doing that. Robert enjoyed being on the channel. I didn't chase him away or anything, despite what a couple people in the comments thought. Like one guy's like, I don't understand. Is this guy a Muslim or something? Yeah, I'm totally a Muslim. And you totally could see that by everything on your screen and everything I was saying. But, you know, to some people, if you question anything that a Christian says, somehow that makes you a Muslim, I guess. I don't know. But most of you enjoyed it. Most of you appreciated it. That video has done very well. If you haven't seen that yet, my interview with Robert, check that out. Preview of what is to come. I wasn't like trying to hide arguments, as someone else accused me of hiding arguments so that Mary could ambush him or whatever. But her arguments are not the same as mine, strangely enough.
It's almost like
All
we're
right.
different people.
Yeah, strange. Because I made a comment that I had not used your arguments, and someone's like, "Oh, you're trying to ambush him." Why would you hide the best arguments?
Because he wanted to do the interview himself. He didn't want to be my mouthpiece. You're not my sock puppet. You wanted to ask your own questions.
Thaddeus sound exactly like DW. Thanks, I guess. All right. Let's get to today's video. Well, almost get to today's video.
I want to prove something. So,
okay.
Our buddy Causal claimed in another comment section of a video that David Wood was doing that in fact we are everyone is a Muslim if they do two things. One, they must believe that there is one God. So I have a question for Thaddeus and for the entire chat. Do you guys believe that there is one God if you are a Christian or a Jew? Do you guys believe there's one God? Thaddeus, do you believe in more than one God?
I do not.
Do you believe in one God?
I do.
Oh, goodness. Do you believe in the prophets and the truth of their message?
Yeah, I believe in the true prophets, right?
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, the Mohammedans don't believe in non-Mohammedan prophets, so they don't believe, I mean, they don't even believe in the supposedly Mohammedan prophets, but they don't believe in everybody who claimed to be a prophet. Musaylima or whatever his name is. Like, they don't believe in them. So, so you are going in timeout for 5 minutes because you are not speaking on topic, Big Mahmood.
But I wanted to bring this up because yesterday we got to see a clip from a Muslim inspired by Mahmood. We searched for Muslims talking about finding peace in Islam. And we had a Muslim, an honest Muslim, a great clip. He says, this is a terrible argument. Don't use it.
Correct.
It's horrible.
It's a horrible argument. And it's actually the argument that that Mormons make. Read this and see if you feel a burning in the bosom. If you feel a certain way, you should believe in Mormonism. So Mahmood here believes that Mormonism is true. He affirms Mormonism, and he believes that Joseph Smith is a prophet of God because whether the truth of something relies on his fifis. So his fifis tell him this because he's actually his own God, and his own appetites are his God. So since his fifis are his God, then they tell the truth. I love how Waffles immediately moved his body so that all you see are legs. He had his head was there when I put it there. I just want you guys to know, but he changed it. So.
So before we get to the main clip, I do have another amazing clip on science, even for us to watch here. Well, on science.
Rasul said always keep food covered. I used to think about this, like why keep the food covered? And then I read that theory that says matter acts different observed when it's not observed. Aisha radiallahu anha, she had a bag of dates that she had hung up on the wall. And she used to pick dates from it and eat. And then one day it dawned on her, she's like, I've been eating these dates for months. So she opened it and looked, and there was like 2 left. She told the Prophet, do you know what he said? He said, Ya Aisha, if you did not look at it, you could have ate from it till the day of Qiyamah. Why did you look? A lot of us, we keep checking the bank account, we keep checking, you keep looking. Stop looking. Let the barakah happen.
Stop checking your bank account. If you just write check, don't check
Right.
your bank account, will never overdraft. That's how it works. Because
Yeah, you know that well-known principle of matter that unlimited dates come out of your bag as long as you never look in it. I'm sure that you've all been sitting on the couch watching TV or something and eating potato chips, and next thing you know, you've eaten like 5 bags worth because you weren't looking at the bag, and more chips just kept coming out until you accidentally looked at it, and then like, oh crap, I ate like 5 bags worth.
because
I'm
we
gonna be
all
sick.
know, yeah, we all know that Heisenberg's uncertainty principle applies to dates and to bank accounts.
Well, I
Because-
wasn't quite sure what he was alluding to. He
Yeah,
might,
he means the uncertainty principle that
but that only tells you can't, determine the position of a
course it does.
molecule.
oh,
Or
not,
I mean,
not
not a molecule, a subatomic particle.
Yeah, and it's the the subatomic particle, and
Yeah, you can't both simultaneously determine
its
its momentum
position.
and its position, right? That's the Heisenberg
Yep.
uncertainty principle. But I
Or
thought he
like-
might be actually referring to quantum superposition, which
no.
people will know as Schrodinger's cat, right?
Oh,
where-
that I guess that's probably some of it too. Yeah, one of those. So yeah,
Something like that. I couldn't quite figure out what he was going for, but either way, he's totally grossly misunderstood what he is trying to talk about.
Mark Fish, you just didn't do it right, because clearly this is a well-known principle of matter that you won't run out of money as long as you're not checking the bank account.
Just keep writing checks. Never
Aren't
worry
you
about it.
glad- Yeah, aren't you glad that we have him to give us advice here? Because otherwise, you might go to oh goodness, who is the Christian money guy who doesn't want you to have any debt for anything? I forgot. Ramsey, Dave Ramsey. Because here we are, stupid Christians listening to Dave Ramsey, and he knows the truth. If you just write checks willy nilly, the blessings will flow. He says the blessings will flow until the day of resurrection. Aisha could have eaten from that.
Schrodinger's grapes. Could be. Next time you climb Mount Everest, don't watch where you're climbing. Just keep climbing and pay attention to where you put your feet. Then you'll never reach the top, though, right? You'll never reach the top because it'll just keep going on forever and ever until you accidentally look up. But Jack has a very important question. What if it's a bag of apples?
That is an important question.
Well, then you get thousands of them, right? So that might actually work, at least according to Mufti Meg. All right. Anything else you want to say before we get to the main video here?
Nope. Now that we have proven that we are all Muslims and always have been, because his point was, you Christians, you don't know, you have this silly belief that would mean that everyone before Jesus would be in hell, right? And well, what about people before Muhammad? Well, if you just believe in that God is one God, and you believe in the true prophets, then you go to then you're a Muslim. I'm like, okay, I'm a Muslim then. I'm a Christian. Trinitarians believe in one God, oneness to a level that your little tiny Sunni mind cannot comprehend, because you do not actually believe in one God. So
Absolutely. Before we start, Jack Ray with a gifted Reason Answers membership.
Wasting your time on social media is one of the best deeds a Muslim can do. There's a huge need for it. You know this and I know this. So that makes the reward even greater. So give generously and Allah Azza wa Jal will give you even more.
And I did fix the money rain, so if there is another thing, it shouldn't make the screen black again. I don't quite understand why it didn't load. It was there, right where it was supposed to be, but it's been loaded now. And we have a correction here or a proof here, however you want to put it, from the Sonatic on Roadrunner. As long as you don't look down, you don't fall. This is very true. So therefore, Islam. All right, let's get Mr. Einstein up here. I should have shared that while I was talking instead of waiting till we needed it, but you know, that would require thinking. Ah, see, there you go. It works now.
Yay!
So we got this video here from a Muslim channel called How Einstein Proved Islam is the Truth. I have not watched the video other than like a couple seconds of it. I believe Mary has watched it. And spoiler alert, it doesn't seem to actually have anything to do with Einstein. It's just a complete clickbait title, apparently.
I'm sure.
Which is so disappointing to me because I was so hoping that
it does. He just can't connect it very well. He's not very coherent.
Okay, so he tries. He does try. All right, thank you. He at least tries there. So you're going to get my off-the-cuff reaction, and then you'll get Mary's more thoughtful comments as well. I'm sure that we will all be converting to Islam or some such nonsense by the end of the evening, just like yesterday when we all converted to Islam. All right, let's begin.
This is how Einstein proved Islam is the truth.
See, he says it right there in the first sentence. This is how Einstein proved that Islam is the truth.
This whole thing actually starts with you. You see, for you to be...
It starts with me? I come way after Einstein.
Yeah, you needed parents, and they needed parents, and so on. So you are dependent, since your existence depends on something else to cause it. In fact, everything in this universe is dependent, since everything had a...
Just to be clear...
So what does this have to do with Einstein?
Nothing.
Nothing. Literally nothing.
But just to be clear, I am not playing the video at 1 1/4 speed. The guy just intentionally sped up his own video. I'm playing it at actual speed here. Sorry. Let me just double check. Yeah, playback speed normal. See, I'm playing it at normal speed.
Yeah.
I knew it was fast, but I was just making sure it wasn't additionally sped up because I do often actually watch videos at 1 1/4 speed.
All right.
But
so let's talk about, but let's go ahead and talk about contingency, something that is contingent or dependent or whatever you want to say. Let's talk about the Sunni Allah, who is made out of parts, is a being with distinct, self-standing, ontologically real parts. Can Allah be Allah without the part of him that is his seeing? Is his seeing Allah? No, his seeing is not Allah. Is it other than Allah? No, it's not other than Allah because it's part of Allah. The correct answer is it is part of Allah. A portion of Allah is his seeing. A portion of Allah is his knowledge. A portion of Allah is his hearing. And now do keep in mind that all Sunnis believe in the knowledge, seeing, and hearing of Allah as three distinct, ontologically real sifat attributes. They're real attributes. They're not nominal attributes. They're not names that we apply to what Allah is. No, they are real and distinct. So this has several problems. First of all, Allah's seeing is not his hearing, which is not his knowledge. So Allah possesses senses. He possesses the sense of sight, which is the perception of photons. Or let's say that Allah has better sight than we do. He's able to detect the entire the entire electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah, his seeing is not like our seeing.
Mary. His seeing is not like our seeing. So let's say he can see everything, but his seeing is not his knowledge. So seeing is not just another name for knowledge, and Allah is something distinct and real. It is not his hearing, and it is not his knowledge. It is something else. So he has a sense perception that relies on what? Electromagnetic forces. So his attribute, and he is dependent on his attributes, because without his attributes, they come together. So they make a big old Lego Allah. Allah is a Lego creature made out of parts. That means that he is contingent and dependent on each of his parts, not logically dependent or anything like that, like literally dependent, because he is made up of these pieces. To make a law, you need these pieces. He depends on them. That's why you cannot have a partialist God. But Sunniism has a partialist God, and the name Tawheed refers to these self-standing attributes that unite and come together to make one big Allah. That's what the word Tawheed means. It means unification of these parts to make big ol' Lego Allah. So Allah is ontologically dependent on all of his different pieces, and many of his pieces are dependent on creation, including seeing. Seeing is dependent because Muhammad thought that sight was something that comes out of you and hits something and then returns to you with information about it. Okay? But Allah, we know what sight is now. We know what seeing is now. Whether or not we have a radio telescope or whatever, that it is the detection of electromagnetic radiation. So Allah has the ability to detect electromagnetic radiation as one of his fundamental attributes. Because it's not his knowledge, this is actual sight. And so that sight ability is dependent on creation to have any meaning. Allah similarly has hearing as one of his fundamental real attributes. What is hearing? It is the detection of differences of pressure, wave pressure in a medium. So waves of pressure in a medium, Allah is dependent on creation, on a medium, to have his sense of hearing have any meaning. Because these are distinct from each other and they're distinct from knowledge.
And
So,
side note here, right? Side note, according to physics, sound actually requires an observer, which means Allah is dependent on creation to be able to hear, because he needs something in creation for him to observe it and hear it. I mean, that's highly shocking that Allah is dependent on creation, though.
Sound doesn't need an observer, it needs something to make it. Like,
well, it needs both, obviously. It needs something to make it, but that's self-evident. The way that physics defines sound, though, it requires an observer or there is no sound.
Well, he would be his own observer. So.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that actually isn't dependent on creation, because he could make noise and then hear himself. All right, that's true. Like,
but
he could use his two right hands to clap.
Inside a medium. Yeah, he has to make noise inside a medium. So like he could hear the internals.
Right. There's no sound in a vacuum, right?
His I guess his blood rushing through his body or something. So this is very important. And some of the other ones are not as clearly dependent on things outside of himself, but hearing and sight are. Also, so is speech, because his speech is a real attribute. It is not a nominal attribute that also means his power and his knowledge. Because we would say that the word of God is the wisdom of God, for example. So it is a nominal attribute referring to another nominal attribute, which is wisdom, which is another name for the knowing of God, which is God's love, because God is love, right? So instead, what you have here is you have a God whose speech is other than his power, other than his will, which is the exercise of power, and other than his knowledge. And speech is the creation of sound in a medium. If this is not a mere nominal attribute for something else, because this is something other than power, other than will, and other than knowledge. And it's real. So 3 of Allah's affirmative attributes that the Maturidi, Ash'ari, and Athari all affirm for Allah are explicitly, clearly, because of their ontological realness and their distinction from other attributes that they might have been just names for, might have been just other names for his will, another name for his power, another name for his knowledge. Because they are real, they are truly dependent on there being things outside of Allah. And if that is not creation, then Allah exists alongside another eternal thing, which once again means he's not Allah. Like, this is not possible. So, anyway, I really enjoyed this.
So, important question here from Adam Seeker. Are you trying to imitate Muhammad, long shoulder-length hairs and beard
Wait till he
growing?
gets his braids, like at the conquest of Mecca. He's gonna start wearing the braids. His beard
Well, you know, I do hear that Muhammad was the most attractive man to ever live. So
you're very white.
yes, and I am very white, right? I got the skin tone down, so again, I'm in good shape there. So important question here from Gordon. If Allah falls off his throne drunk, does he make a sound?
Apparently,
now, this is actually more interesting than you think. Well, maybe he makes a noise like, ah, but can he actually fall though, right? Because he's just like, the throne is just like floating somewhere.
And he descends.
What does it mean to fall off of it?
Well, what's
right?
really funny is that you have to affirm that Allah is on or above his throne, but also that he descends.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot affirm that he descends, but is not on his throne. So apparently his throne's just glued to his butt.
I guess.
So is the ocean under him.
Oh, well, I mean, right, because the only way you'd fall is gravity. But, like, this is non-time space relation, or...
Oh, no. But
hold on, Mary. Hold on, let me finish the thought. Or more likely, Muhammad imagined Allah up there in space. But either way, right, he's not going to fall towards Earth if he comes off his throne. So, I don't know. Does it actually work? Can he fall?
Well, what would happen is he is the most massive thing in the universe. So everything ought to be falling towards him if it's close enough. So.
Yeah, it could be a black hole, right? Allah is a black hole.
I don't know what his density is. Maybe he's maybe has very low density, because you only get a black hole if you're very, very dense. So,
well, I mean, based on his prophet, I think he's pretty dense, but maybe in a different way. So Adam Seeker says, please show your armpits. I want to see if they're white. It's Muhammad.
Well, see, he can't be Muslim yet because I don't think he plucks his armpits.
No, I definitely don't.
Sounds so painful.
I don't think you want to see. I don't think you guys want to see that.
Of all the places to pluck, I would not want to, like, armpits. People complain about plucking eyebrows or whatever. No, I like that. Would just, the idea of it makes my eyes water. Because it's not like they were waxing and just pulling it off all at once. No, pluck, pluck, pluck.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and see, Gordon says, right. I forgot about gravity. So, meaningless question there, right? Because we can't figure out what it means for Allah to be sitting on his throne. I mean, even sitting kind of requires gravity, doesn't it? So, I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So, getting back to the video here, a couple people commented on this, and I thought I'd fixed it, but I didn't. So, let me refresh the page. It's because Mary's dog cam dropped off what was part of the scene, so then it got messed up. There we go. There we go. Back to normal. All right. So Carol says, Mom robs you and beats your ass. Sorry. What the heck? And so this guy who made this video, you'll find that he tries really hard to be funny in the video, and you be the judge of whether he succeeds or not. I only watched like 5 seconds in the middle somewhere, but he was trying to make a joke there. This is obviously trying to make a joke, right? He doesn't the only purpose of this is to say cause and effect. Yeah. So like he went through all this effort to create this visual.
He does bring up physics in a moment. If you can, actually, I'm not looking at the right thing right now. You could bring me back to the screen.
Oh, yep. Sorry.
Real time. Sorry about that.
Yep. My bad. Because I refreshed the page, then you lost it as well.
No, I'm just looking at you.
Yep. I know what you're looking at, man.
Okay, all right.
No one else does, though. You don't have to ruin the magic. All right. So that is fixed now. Mary is seeing the same thing you guys are seeing now. So the only he put all this effort into making this because he thought it was a funny joke of cause and effect. That like he doesn't reference this, right? So you have to be watching closely because it's only up a couple seconds. I just happened to pause it there for this joke of you know, you should be studying and you're doing something, which I can't quite figure out what the joke is there. I mean, I guess you're on your phone, but I don't know what the picture on it is supposed to be.
Yeah, well, that you were just doing something you weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I guess playing games. I can't even tell what that is. You were playing
Yeah,
games.
I mean, it looks like, I mean, if I'm being honest, it looks like a dog wearing a crown. So I don't know what it's supposed to represent.
I can't tell, but oh, I have no idea.
Yeah,
So
I don't know what it
you're
is.
messing around on your phone.
It's some kind of, I think he put that image there though, because it's some kind of joke, because it's clearly an actual image. It's not like a doodle or something. But anyway, and then the effect is that your mom beats your well, doesn't just beat your ass, beats you and robs your ass. So
I'm like, why is your mother robbing you? I guess he means takes away your phone.
I guess, right? He thought this was funny. That's why he did this. I mean, he put whatever else you want to say about the video. He certainly spent a ton of effort creating this and editing it and whatnot. I don't think it's funny. I mean, I don't think it works as a joke, but he definitely put a lot of effort into it. Oh, Midnight City is getting tired, so I'm going to go to bed. I'll catch you tomorrow. All right, that's acceptable. You're allowed to watch the replay.
All right.
All right, let's play the video then.
Had a cause, but I'll expand on that point later. In today's video, we'll be diving into the
Oh, it was more involved. It wasn't just a still. It's a video.
Since everything had a cause, but I'll expand on that point later. In today's video, we'll be diving into the maths, science, and history.
And that was one of the parts that I saw when I was skimming like a second or two at a time, where the soccer player rolls down and hits bowling pins. And like, I mean, the guy spent so much effort on this, and it's so, but it's not funny, right? I mean, he took a ton of effort to make that animation, and it wasn't funny. It was just pointless and stupid. All right. Anyway, let's forget about the silly editing and try to get.
He doesn't understand what a cause is either, because the cause of you not studying is not caused formally. It's not in any sort of philosophical sense. The effect is not your mother beating you. Your mother's decision to punish you then is the actual, you know, like there's a whole causal chain there. That's not how cause and effect works. But
why is his mom out on the sidewalk beating him? Because that's the clip he had, and he had to make his joke. All right, let's forget all of the pointless visuals, and let's try to hear what his argument is, because I don't know about you guys, but I was totally distracted.
Everything in this universe is dependent, since everything had a cause, but I'll expand on that point later. In today's video, we'll be diving into the maths, science, and history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a big bang.
I do appreciate him saying, or maybe his editor saying, I made sure to edit out the music for this corny joke. Appreciate that, so I won't get demonetized either. Although I might from that first clip.
The mystery that all started with a big bang. Or maybe it didn't. Really, it doesn't matter what you believe, since we always end up with the same dilemma. No matter how far back we go, we'll never reach a beginning point, and this is because of one of the universe's most fundamental laws, the conservation of mass and energy. I'll keep it short and simple.
Oh, he's going to keep it short and simple, guys. He's going to keep it short and simple here.
And by the way, I have another question for everyone again. Does Einstein's theory of special relativity, which is the one that he's going to cite, or even general relativity, does that imply or require the Big Bang?
No, I mean, I'm not saying Einstein didn't agree with the Big Bang.
But he did not develop the theory.
He didn't develop the theory, right? It's not his theory. And his theory of relativity is only like very tangentially connected to it. And what this guy's describing really has nothing to do with relativity, at least not so far.
Correct.
He's, well, he set it up, right? He set up cause and effect for an infinite regress, and then he like just dismisses that and says we have a problem or something. But he didn't say like there can't be an infinite regress. There has to be a beginning, which is the normal reason you bring that up. Instead, he goes into something unrelated. I gotta let him play him out a little more to see what he's talking about here. But I didn't see the connection, right? It was like an idea that almost was finished, and then he just went to different ideas. That's the way.
Well,
it
his
felt to me.
idea, he's trying to say you cannot have an infinite regress.
Well, that's what I thought, but that's not what he says.
There's a beginning, and that beginning, but that has nothing to do with Einstein. And the Big Bang, again, was not developed by Einstein.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I thought he was setting up, right? I thought he was setting up an infinite regress. But let me just play that back. Right?
He's still going to go. He's going to go through infinite regress some more.
Okay,
of,
so he'll eventually get to the actual point.
He's never going to articulate anything clearly because he doesn't understand any of it himself. But
okay. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what his argument is here. But let me just play it a little bit more thoroughly and try to figure out what he's saying.
Or maybe it didn't. Really, it doesn't matter what you believe, since we always end up with the same dilemma. No matter how far back we go, we'll never reach a beginning point, and this is because of one of the universe's most fundamental laws, the conservation of mass and energy. I'll keep.
Okay.
And that makes no sense because
yeah. So I couldn't remember what he said, right? I couldn't remember what he said, but those are unrelated ideas. The law of conservation of mass and energy has nothing to do with the philosophical problem of an infinite regress.
And also he claims that because of the conservation of mass and energy, which is again not something that Einstein discovered or was instrumental in promoting. They were two existing thoughts. He related one to the other in special relativity. But saying that the law of conservation of mass and energy says that you can't have a Big Bang while saying that there is a Big Bang theory is just nonsensical because he's arguing both at the same time. He's like, law of conservation of mass and energy says that there can't be a beginning.
Except it doesn't, right? Because the standard understanding of Big Bang is that there's a very, 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 very tiny point that has near infinite density and near infinite mass.
Zero. It's not tiny. It's zero.
It's the single. Yeah. I was trying to describe it in normal terms, right, and not physics terms. But the idea isn't that the matter and energy don't exist. It's that they're all concentrated on a single point, and then that single point explodes. But the mass and energy were already there, so to speak. Except it's a paradox because it's an infinitely small point, right?
It is a singular point. It's the beginning singularity. There is no space in which the mass and energy.
Right, it's creating. It's weird to think about because it's creating space at the same time, but the energy and/or mass already exists at the singularity. Time doesn't exist, so again, you're getting into weird. Not having adequate language to explain it exactly, but it doesn't have anything to do with conservation of mass and energy
because it doesn't take up space. So
right, okay, fine. It's pure energy. Yeah, pure energy. That's fine.
It is quite involved, but none of it is what he's saying.
Correct.
So none of it.
And the conservation of mass and energy is like completely different thing. So. He's just throwing around terms. That's what he said. Like he almost had a thought, and then he throws out different things and thinks they're connected, but they're not. All right, let's try. And Faisal, I did see you replied. I have not had a chance to reply back yet. I will schedule a second show if you don't worry. I wasn't like destroyed by the first one or whatever that you may think, or I'm afraid or scared or whatever. I just haven't had time to reply yet.
Keep it short and simple. In 1905, an unknown German scientist by the name of Albert Einstein published his theory of relativity, which included
Okay, a trivial error there, but he was certainly not unknown when he published the theory of relativity.
what is now the most famous equation in the world, E equals mc squared, which put simply means that mass and energy are the same thing, and that the universe has a constant sum of mass and energy at any time.
That is not at all. Mass and energy are not the same thing. That is not what it says.
It finds the relationship between them, right? That they
It's the
are
relationship.
interchangeable under the right circumstances, but no, they're not the same
They're not
thing.
the same thing.
Clickbait title. I don't know if you're accusing me of a clickbait title or what. My title is like basically exactly the same as the title of the video, slightly reworded, and then I
Yeah.
added the word reaction. So
Yep,
if it's a
We're
clickbait title, it's the
reacting
original.
to the claim.
Yep.
So, and it's funny because he's actually clipping things from other things, and this just he's taking screenshots of accurate information and he's misunderstanding them. So,
Well, yeah, he's definitely misunderstanding things.
but the funny thing is that he even like goes, oh look, Newton is the source of the conservation of energy. Yeah, so why did you say Einstein? Because it makes you sound smarter.
Bro, stop focusing on comments so much, please. Well, that's what I do. I interact with the audience.
All right, and then and the conservation of mass, of course, was Lavoisier. Sorry, my French is appalling. Lavoisier, who is, I believe, the dude who discovered oxygen and has that famous painting of him like killing a sparrow. And that always bothered me as a kid. Very, very well done painting. But anyway, these were existing ideas, and Einstein just related one to another because energy is neither created nor destroyed through ordinary means, and matter is neither created nor destroyed through ordinary means. And those extraordinary means from which matter can become energy and energy can become matter was discovered by Einstein through a series of completely insane but very, very logical thought experiments that he followed up with math. That has to do with reflections on trains moving different speeds and different things like that. It's really quite interesting. But this entire thing is not like it's applicable to closed systems, any closed system. But for example, the Earth is not a closed system. When we talk about renewable energy, there is no such thing as renewable energy. It is a lie. When we say renewable energy, what we mean is energy that the sun constantly sends to us that we can harvest in a way that does not appear to decrement its amount over the spans of time that humans think and deal with. Right? Because the sun's gonna, if Jesus doesn't return before the sun burns up, we're gone. Like if that would be an end to humanity too, and the end to this earth. It's not renewable. But the idea is that the earth functions as an open system from which new energy comes in from the sun within the system of the earth. Well, if you have the system of the universe, that should be everything that is material. And again, we will discover in a moment how this destroys Islam, because a universe would include everything that has matter and energy and matter, and our concepts of them, and that exists in space. So,
and we got the real Einstein on camera now. Yes, my cat is actually named Einstein. I was hoping that he would show up for this live stream, and he has. So good job, Einstein, for showing up to hear about your namesake.
It's been empirically proven that mass and therefore energy cannot be created or destroyed. In layman's terms, something cannot come from nothing. You cannot deny this law exists within our universe. So then the question arises, if mass and energy can't be created, how did it end up in our universe in the first place?
Okay, I mean,
Stated, but I'm gonna do that. But again, we're talking about the closed system of the universe, which consists of all energy, all material, all mass, all space, all time. So let's see what his answer to that is.
I'm sure it's going to be Islam somehow. Even if he was stating this properly, it would be an argument for a creator, not for Islam specifically. But he's not stating it properly.
Let's imagine the universe and its entire timeline. It's an isolated system, which basically means that nothing goes in and nothing comes out. So let's draw a box around it to signify that. If mass or energy can't be created within the box because of the laws of the universe, then it had to be created by something which simply isn't limited by such laws. In other words, unlimited. And this something also has to be outside of the box and exist without it. Put simply, it has to be independent of the system. Otherwise, it will be put in the dimensions of time and space, which we already determined it can't be limited to. And lastly,
Okay,
there can
all right,
only be
let's
one
stop.
of these entities.
So, is Allah outside of time and space?
There's no indication of that. I mean, I'm sure that there are Muslims who believe that.
It gets better. Not only is there no indication of that,
there's indication to the contrary, in fact.
There is indication of the contrary. So, let's see. Is Allah a being without matter, without mass? That's the first question. Now, if you said, where is Allah before creation? If you need to give him a location, then he exists where? He exists in time and space. So let's look at this hadith. Does Allah exist outside of creation? If you can bring it up.
Yep, 1 second. I was busy
adding. Whoa, that's too big. Okay, that's pretty big. That should work. All right, so I said, "Oh, messenger of Allah, where was our Lord before he created his creation?" Now, the correct answer should be that Allah made space and made time and is outside of it. But that is not the answer he gives. Muhammad said he was above the clouds, below which was air, and above which was air and water. Then he created his throne above the water. So Allah, before his creation, Allah exists in space with matter. So there are clouds, there is air, and there is water. These are uncreated by Allah because this is where Allah existed in this time and space because he has mass. Allah has a size, he has a mass, he is made of matter, and he exists in space. Therefore, he is not the creator. He is within the box. That which is made of stuff is within the box. Now, according to the Bible, is the being of God a stuff being in the material sense?
No, but before you go on, I just want to explain that last point. So according to this hadith, right, someone asked where Allah is, and Muhammad tells you exactly what he's thinking. He tells you exactly what he's thinking, that the clouds are eternal, that whatever is above the clouds is eternal. Below it's nothing, right?
No, below is air. Air.
Well, okay, fine. But from Muhammad's perspective, air is probably nothing. I know it's not actually nothing, but from Muhammad's perspective, there's nothing substantial, at least, right? Nothing of any significance until Allah creates the earth. He's not thinking in terms of the universe or outer space or whatever. He's thinking there's Allah, a physical being on his physical throne above the clouds, and then he creates a physical world.
Right, and then this one is so troublesome that there's another version that says that he was above the clouds, but no air was under him, no air was above him. So clouds are eternal in this version. So like, oh, wait, regarding the air, it means there was nothing with him. So they changed the understanding to air to mean, like Muhammad would have thought, that air is nothing, that it means that there's really nothing, because they realized that that was very, very embarrassing. But you're stuck with the clouds. Even when you butcher it, you're stuck with the clouds. Absolutely believe that this is an authentic hadith. This is the kind of things that Muhammad said all the time. His God has a size and exists in space.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, these kinds of things with Allah are literal. Allah pushing his foot down into the hellfire is literal. He has a foot that is properly the foot of Allah that goes down into hellfire and crushes it. It is not metaphorical, anything that Muhammad has written. That's why the Salafis have so much strength these days and gain in numbers. It's so ludicrous that people who can distance themselves from the sources just reject it. But once you have the sources, what you have is you have a big old giant who stomps around in space and puts his butt on a chair and has an ottoman that's really, really big, and his chair's really, really big, and so he's really, really huge. Mm-hmm. So he is the most massive thing in the universe. For example, on the day of resurrection, Allah will hold the whole earth and fold the heavens with his right hand and say, I am the kings who were the kings of the earth. This is how big Allah literally is, according to Muhammad. So the issue is not only that Allah is inside the box, but Allah is by far the largest part of the box. Like you have like Allah, and then you have universe, and then you have other things much smaller than that. So Allah is the biggest part of this universe.
So I do want to universe, right? Maybe not exactly the right term.
Well, yeah, because his universe doesn't have any.
Right.
It has
right, because Mom had no idea what a universe is, right? But I'm trying to more accurately describe the picture here, right? So you got the box where Allah is in, right? He's definitely in something. And then he creates probably a box inside of that box, which is what the earth is in. And then Allah can't go into that box for whatever reason. Maybe he's too big, or I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Well, that's not even.
But he can't go
by
into
the way,
that
that's
new
not
box.
even authentic teaching of Muhammad. Muhammad never believed such a thing, and Muhammad believed quite the opposite and put it in the Quran. But because again, it's so humiliating to Muslims, they just have to teach this against what Muhammad taught, against what the Quran teaches, and say that he can't enter. They ascribe to Allah powerlessness that Allah does not have in the sources, which is very, very clearly there. But because Allah is perfectly able to shrink and grow and change his mass all the time inside this box of a material being. So, and we have to keep in mind that distance is measured in like years, and each heaven.
Well, you see, that's the proof, because we have light years, Mary. We have light years.
They are 700 years from one another, or 500 years from one another, traveling by camel, I suppose. Continuously, and each one is a flat pancake, and they're stacked on top of one another. Who ate the apple? And they're
Mary, we got to relate this to the video, right? Because you said camels or whatever, but remember that time is relative, and so depending on how fast you're traveling, a different amount of time will pass between where you're going. So maybe it works, right? It doesn't specify. It doesn't specify what these years are measured in. You're just supposed to automatically know, which you would probably reference as something like camel travel.
That's what he meant.
But
even if it's light years, though, that's still very cool, because you have
yeah. But if you're going faster than light,
you can't go faster than light. Nothing goes faster than light. But so you have 500.
Well, then you might theoretically be going backwards in time, which I don't know how that helps you any, but I'm just trying to make sense of this, Mary. Come on.
All right. So you have 7 stacked heavens, each in its row. And then on the bottom of the lowest of the stacked heavens, there are stars for decoration and for throwing at shaitans who try to approach the upper levels of heaven. So if shaitans or jinn try to eavesdrop on things happening in paradise, then these lamps that are put at the lower levels of heaven are also taken and thrown at them to keep them from coming up. And then below that, on that top earth, is our earth. And then there are 7 earths below that. Now, on every earth, there is a Muhammad. So they have the many universes, but they're also identical universes. And there is a Jesus and a Moses on each of these earths. Other people are apparently not repeated, but prophets live multiple lives on multiple earths. They just apparently have no memory of this. Now, these lower earths are not for jinn. The jinn are just invisible and are living with you, like on the surface of the earth. And then the location of hellfire is kind of unclear, but is somewhere, and it has to be somewhere where Allah's foot can go. So it's probably below that. So that is the literal, not figurative, but literal Islamic cosmology. Oh, and the entire universe is full of air, just to be clear. Everything is air. Now, here is another one.
Before you go on, Mary, I need some good Islamic advice here, right? To try to paint this picture accurately. So before Allah creates anything, you got clouds, and you got not Muhammad. Sorry, slip of the tongue there. You got Allah
and water,
right? So, and maybe water and air, but you don't have stars, right? You definitely don't have stars because Allah creates those.
He also creates
it says
plants.
so in the Quran.
Yep.
But here's the thing, right? So you got the earth in the Quranic picture. You got the earth down here, and then you got stars, but they got to at least be above the clouds. So he's creating stars.
No, the stars are below the clouds. So.
But that doesn't make any. I don't think that could be accurate though, Mary, because anyone in any time period could just easily observe that clouds go through the sky and they cover up the stars because the stars are further away. They might think they're close, right?
Well,
they might
there
think that
are other stars. There are bonus, or excuse me, there are other clouds, bonus clouds, relocated clouds, and
Oh, okay. So
like
our clouds aren't the clouds of Allah.
Material down and put it down here, and put some material here and some material there.
Okay.
So, like,
thank you. That was the piece I was missing. Our clouds are not the clouds of Allah. Those are some other clouds.
Right.
Gotcha.
Those were the raw materials with which Allah made the universe, because Allah neither created nor destroyed any matter.
I guess.
Because apparently, and notice that he did not create the ocean upon which the throne above the water. That water was not his creation. That's so embarrassing that there are actual arguments about it where they're like, no, it has to be his creation because otherwise he wouldn't really be the creator. There's also the issue that some of the hadiths say that before Allah created creation, he wrote for himself everything that would happen with his own hand. So he has a hand that is writing with a pen on a book. So the pen and book are not part of his creation according to those accounts. And that's also very troubling. That's why sometimes people they debate, no, he has to have created the pen because otherwise he wouldn't have anything to write with. Yeah, show me where Muhammad actually taught that he created the pen. The pen's eternal.
I think that the pen is eternal. I mean, that seems to be the implication. Snoopy said, these are not the clouds you are looking for. Yep. I was corrected there. And we have this question here from Mendem. Shouldn't they be traveling faster than the speed limit?
Well, we did explore
the jinn. I think, right? You're talking about jinn, maybe.
Well, when they're traveling from one level to another. Right. Well, we did talk about last time how supposedly the angel Michael was given wings to fly up a leg of one of Allah's legs of his throne for 30,000 years and failed to do it, even though he's given extra wings to fly extra fast. And we are not sure what fraction of the speed of light he was flying, but he flew for a very long time and did not do that. But again, that shows how big, because you've only got 500 years between the different pancake stacks when compared to the huge, vast distances going up the leg of Allah's throne. So Allah is super, super, super large, and he is literally a size. And there are many versions of this hadith, but they're all affirming what the Jew told Muhammad, because Muhammad believed like 90% of what Jews told him. They could get him to believe anything. So a Jew came to the prophet and said, "Oh Muhammad, Allah will hold the heavens on a finger, and the mountains on the finger, and the trees on a finger, and all creation on a finger, and he will say, I am the king." On that, Allah's messenger smiled till his premolar teeth became visible, then recited, "No just estimate have they made of Allah such as due to him." Abdullah added, Allah's apostle smiled at the Jew's statement, expressing his wonder and belief in what was said. So he's saying that the unbelievers do not make a correct estimate of the power of Allah, whereas he, who agrees with what this Jew said about how big Allah is and how small other things are, in a literal sense. It's one of the most important things to understand. There is nothing metaphorical about Muhammad's descriptions here. That's why he answered the question, where was Allah before he created his creation? Where was he? That's where he was. He was in space. He was in a place. He was there because he is inside the box. He is material, and therefore he is not God.
So we do actually have a legitimate question here. Short version first, and then the full version, but the short version is a super chat from Misunderstanding.
Here's the sad news. We are running out of funds. All our work is going to stop unless people like you watching this video will help us. Your donations can get you a share in a reward. Reap those rewards for years to come, inshallah. This is not a donation or a charity, but an investment for your hereafter.
So Nisanak asks, don't we run into similar issues with Genesis 2? What's your take on this verse? Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. I'll let Mary answer more extensively, but let me just briefly say a couple words, right? I would say that Genesis 1 by itself doesn't necessarily teach creation ex nihilo, creation from nothing, but Scripture as a whole does, and thus you should interpret Genesis in that light. The standard answer would be that God created the earth formless and then formed it, right? Which seems to be the narrative of Genesis. Can get into all kinds of issues about how to interpret this, right? And we won't. But the narrative seems to be that first there's a creation of a thing, and then that thing is filled or formed or organized. Mary, your thoughts?
So in Psalm 95, 4-5, it explicitly says that God made the deep. So I'm 99% sure that that's the same word there. I know there's a place in the Psalm where it says explicitly that God made the seas, the oceans, the deep, and he made them. Also, so like, you can't say that the deep is pre-existent while also there being things where it explicitly says that he made them. Now, there are many places in the Bible where it talks about God's footstool. You know, the earth is his footstool, and he holds the world in his palm, and he is, you know, in the depths of Sheol, and he's there and here and all these other things. These are poetic and metaphorical. Muhammad uniquely despised metaphor, and unless he said something was metaphorical, and even then, some of his, and this is the similitude, even then, the Islamic sources insist that Muhammad told stories that talked about the similitude of the two gardens and the similitude of these various people, that these were historical figures. So even in his parables, he says that these were real people who lived. And the only places where there is any metaphor is things like, and Allah is akin to this similitude. He is like a lamp in a niche and all this stuff. And it's very, very explicit. All of these other places, I mean, it's not even just the Bible. Tons of ancient literature is full of allusions, metaphors, allegorical things. Islam is not. It is a different type of literature. It is a different approach to understanding things. I really strongly believe that Muhammad was autistic. He was on the spectrum. OCD and autism often are occur with the same people. Not always, obviously, but there is a high degree of co-occurrence. He's clearly extremely OCD, and his extreme frustration with anything metaphorical and non-literal and his disgust for it shows a literalness that is very much on the autistic spectrum, very clearly on the autistic spectrum. His inability to communicate with people through illusion or anything like that, or hinting at things. Muhammad was consistently incapable of letting people know what he meant unless he literally spelled out what he meant. And people often misunderstood him. Again, that's very likely to be autistic. I really, really think that he was autistic, hated metaphors, and so uniquely, of practically any ancient literature, the Quran is uniquely literal.
Yeah, and this is a really important point, because the vast majority of people who come to studying Islam who are not Muslims, right, they don't grow up learning this material. Whether they're Christians or not, right, I'm talking about all kinds
Everyone.
of people.
Yeah.
Come to the text and they assume that things are metaphorical, right? They assume that this is metaphorical language because that's what they're used to, and only when you study
it took
and
me
you
2
like
years
really
to
dig into
Thaddeus.
it,
2
right.
years to convince you how literal. And you're like, it can't be. That's too stupid. I refuse to believe that. I'm like, Thaddeus, I'm telling you, that's what it's meant by this being the clear signs, that nothing is metaphorical, nothing is hidden, it's spelled out. And then eventually he's like, it really.
Yeah, the more you study, right, the more you study, Muhammad repeatedly rules out a metaphorical interpretation for something that really looks metaphorical, right? We are not coming to this text and being bigoted and saying it couldn't be metaphorical. We're forced into it being non-metaphorical because that's what Muhammad says about it over and over and over again.
And that's actually what he means by it being clear. The unique clarity of the Quran, that it being the clear signs, the clear signs, the clear signs, the clear signs. What are the clear signs? That there's nothing in it that's metaphorical, unless it explicitly says so. And even then, sometimes it was literal about some actual person, and they're just giving this real situation as if it is as applying to these circumstances. Like,
right. So an
this
example,
is a specific instance of the
an example, not
yeah.
strictly speaking a metaphor.
Right. Yep. So. Yeah, and I
yeah, because a metaphor is to compare two things that are not really alike, right? So you draw an analogy from something, often something that's really basic, everyone's familiar with, to something more complex that people aren't familiar with, to try to explain that more complex thing. That's the way a metaphor works. It's not an example, right? It's not like, well, the principle that I want to demonstrate is that criminals go to jail. And by the way, let me tell you the story of some real guy who was caught doing criminal activity and went to jail. And that's not a metaphor. That's an example.
Yep. And the word for similitude can mean either metaphor or example. It can mean both. And anytime it can mean just an example, you'll find Muhammad said that it was about people in such and such a place who did this. They saying that this is an example of something that that literally happen with some people. Even the things like, yeah, like it's given as an example, but it really happened. Even things that you'd be like, no, this is just a parable. Nope, not to Muhammad. So very important point.
However, counterexample, there was a clear parable in the video I watched yesterday, which, according to Paul Williams, was the beautiful proof of Muhammad when he told a parable equating himself to God.
I know, that was just insane. Insane. Muhammad calls himself God like any horrible cult leader would, and equates rejection of him to rejection of God. And Paul Williams is like, oh, proof of Allah.
This shows the beautiful insight he had into people's minds. He knows that when they reject him, they're really rejecting Allah.
Yep. All right, let's keep going.
All right. Let me just take not super chat, gifted membership real quick from Jack Ray.
Brothers and sisters, why to lose this great opportunity? Remember, when the person is on his deathbed, the last minute, he will ask Allah Jalla wa'ala to be delayed for 1 second to do what? Not to pray, not to do other things, but to give sadaqah, because sadaqah you can give it just like this, yeah, in 1 second.
Just 1 second to give that sadaqah, which is voluntary donations above your mandatory charity. Oxymoron. Literal metaphors. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. Literal metaphors. This is Islam for you. All right, let's watch some more of the video. It's been a little while since we watched this, but just to recall so far, I haven't heard a complete thought, to be honest. Like he's giving like half a thought, which alludes to something that's kind of a point, but he hasn't completed any thought yet. Maybe he will.
If there were two of them, they'd become limitations of each other. Imagine there was two of them, and one wanted it to be sunny and the other wanted it to be snowy. Neither has power over the other, so neither of them get their way. Suddenly, these two beings that were meant to be unlimited have limited each other. This something is the
What now?
So he's saying that,
So
he's the creator.
Right. He's trying to argue against polytheism.
Yes, but he also is not being. Aha! All right, I'm restarting my dog cam. It's being mildly interesting. All right, so yeah, he's claiming that he's unlimited, but is Allah unlimited? Is he infinite?
No.
No, he's got a body. He's got expanse. He's got places that is Allah and places that aren't Allah. Allah cannot enter creation, and his participation is such that with creation is massively limited. He is also not outside of the universe because he has proportions. He has mass. He is part of the universe. He's singular in a sense, but he is not the proper kind of singularity, which is that you cannot have ontological distinctions. But Allah is full of ontological distinctions. His hands, his sight, his hearing, his knowledge, his speech, his power, his will, all of these are distinct and is not, they're put together as Lego pieces into him. If you're Salafi, many things are put together as Lego pieces. You have fewer Lego pieces if you're other types of Sunni, but he is not singular. He has those parts. And the thing about, you can't have one part, you can't have one, imagine if there are two and one wants to do one thing and one wants to do another. Well, in Allah, let me ask you a question. Does Allah's wrath, is it opposed to his mercy?
It is, but fortunately his mercy is stronger.
Yes. So Allah has defective wrath, and his mercy is superior and stronger. So the Islamic answer to what if one was opposed to another? Well, the stronger one wins. Can that be God?
Yeah. So
guy can't be God.
I don't. Okay. First of all, he didn't in any way justify that God is unlimited, right? I mean, what does that even mean? He hasn't explained it in any way. And then he wanted to rule out polytheism, or maybe he had Christianity in mind, whatever. And so he says that you can't have two opposing wills and get a created universe, except you could, right? Mary just demonstrated one way. One will could be stronger than the other. Or maybe one just doesn't care, or maybe they both create their own universes.
Yeah, that's not the correct argument for singleness. The correct argument for singleness is that which is the uncaused cause must be, so you cannot have any potential that is not fully realized within that cause, because then that uncaused cause would itself have changes and causes and have potentiality. And whenever you have distinctions, you introduce possibilities for potentiality, you introduce the kinds of constraints and limitations that you can't have. But he hasn't justified any of this. Like none of these are actually, he has not yet made a coherent argument for any of these.
No, I mean, again, right, I have no reason to oppose his argument, because right now he's not arguing for Islam at all. He's just arguing for theism. But he's not making a coherent point.
No. But he said Einstein, so you should be impressed.
Well, and he talked, well, actually, I don't think he talks really fast. I think he just sped up his normal speech. But in the video, he's talking really fast, which proves that he has lots of knowledge. Just look at Zakir Naik and all that. Good point here from Freddie, though, contradicting you, Mary, when you concluded that Muhammad was autistic, for example. Couldn't the actual reason Muhammad acted as he did is because he was literally bewitched, i.e., demonically possessed? I think that's a strong counter argument there, Mary.
I don't think that being demonically possessed would make you behave in a way that is distinctly autistic. However, he may also be demonically possessed. I do not rule that out in the least bit, because Islam teaches that every Muslim is subject to bewitchment, including Muhammad, that Muhammad is eternally vulnerable to bewitchment and is subject to it and has been under the power of bewitchment and has been tricked by Shaitan, who comes to him in the form of Jibreel. Muhammad cannot tell the difference between Jibreel and Shaitan and Iblis. He can't tell the difference. And that is Islamic teaching.
Mark Fish says, Allah is omnipresent, yet he can't be here. Very interesting. So, right, there's an ambiguity as to what outside means. And Muhammad's idea, or at least something that could have been attributed to Muhammad, outside would just mean in a different space, right? It wouldn't mean apart from, incompatible with, or whatever you want to phrase that is. It could go either way. I'm not actually sure what this guy's thinking. He hasn't explained anything. So exists without it, pre-existent, fine. Although he hasn't proved that either, right?
Yep.
I mean, theoretically, the creator of this universe could have been created by the actual pre-existent being, right? So, I mean, he hasn't argued for any of this.
Right. He just kind of stipulates it with arguments that talk around the point without ever actually clearly justifying it. All right, let's keep going.
I mean, again, not arguing for Islam, so I have no reason to oppose this other than that's crappy.
Creator of the universe. And throughout history, humans have had many ideas of who or what this might be. So to figure out which religion is correct, all we need to do is compare it against our criteria to see which faiths are compatible to what we can observe in the universe. Also,
okay, all right. So now it's going to be about Islam. You haven't justified your criteria. You got to justify your criteria before you can do a comparison. That's problem number one. And I'm sure problem number two is that Islam's not going to pass even his criteria.
Well, I've already shown you that was his criteria, and I've already shown you that Islam fails, because Allah cannot possibly be outside of the universe. He is a material thing with extent. And in fact, Allah says that he is time. Do not curse time, for Allah is the time. So he says that he is time. Let me see if I can find that one.
While you're looking at that, so Vago Bond says, I don't think omnipresence is one of all Ahaz attributes.
He is on, or
he is, yeah, he's not in the throne, right? So
on
he's
or
not.
above. Well, they use kind of this ambiguous word, and then whenever they translate it, they fight with people.
Hmm.
As to whether or not it means upon or above.
And the Christian concept of omnipresence doesn't mean that God is physically present in all matter or something like that either. So don't confuse, right? Don't confuse what's going on here.
Omnipresence is another word for omniscience.
Yeah, I
Essentially,
mean,
there's nowhere that
he's right.
that
He's
word
present in the
but
situation because
Allah
he's
may
fully
or may not
aware
be
of
able to see
everything.
what you do in
Right.
the toilet.
Yep.
So Allah
Well,
might
because
know
and the reason the Muslims argue about that is because they can't conceive of a being that is actually outside of space, right? They can only conceive of a being that's outside of space in the sense of not in the same space as us. So they think that Allah, so then they're confused, right? Is Allah present or is he not present? Well, he could be present in a bathroom. That would be disgusting. As if having knowledge of someone using the bathroom is disgusting, right? But when they say that, the people saying that he's not there are absolutely thinking that he would be there, physically present while you are using the toilet. That's what they're thinking, and that's why they reject it, because they can't conceive of what God actually is.
Yep.
All right, do you want to? You were looking for something. Do you want me to pull that up?
I haven't found it yet. But
Okay.
Allah says, the sons of Adam offended me and say, woe to time. But they should not say woe to time. I am time. I alternate the day and the night. And if I willed, I could seize them both. So Allah himself is the time. So.
All right, then. Let's see what else we got here. We're almost halfway through. Maybe we'll get a coherent point.
So I only mentioned the 5 major world religions here, otherwise this video would be an hour long. We'll start off with Christianity.
Oh,
I'm gonna go off
shame on
topic for a
that.
second, but I'm sorry.
Mary, oh no, an hour long video. What would we ever do?
Oh, it gets good.
Oh, okay.
All the
So
way through his Christianity. Because let's ask a question. Does this genius who knows all about Einstein, this Islamic Einstein, does he know what Christians believe about Christ? Does he understand
I'm
that
gonna guess
Christians
not.
believe
I mean,
that
I'd like to
Christ
give.
is the pre-existent Son incarnated truly in flesh? Or is he going to be an absolute blubbering idiot and humiliate himself and his pedo pervert stupid prophet and go, how can a man be a god? Like a monkey. Like this is literally poo throwing ape territory here, Muslims. You've got to stop this. This humiliates you and makes you look like complete idiots to anyone outside the Islamic bubble. No atheist has ever made this argument because it is that stupid.
Well, I mean, there are many atheists, Mary. There's got to be someone somewhere, sometime who was that stupid. But it does seem to be mostly exclusively a Muslim thing, right? It's not like I've heard Hindus make this kind of argument, or Buddhists, or anyone, right, who opposes Christianity. Just Muslims can't seem to comprehend the idea that God could take on flesh.
There we
Monkey
go.
monkey arguments indeed.
So
All right.
let's see whether or not he is
All right.
better.
So it sounds like he's about to be triggered, right? It sounds like he's about to be triggered by merely saying Christianity, and we'll have something stupid to say first. So let's get that.
Long. We'll start off with Christianity. I'm gonna go off topic for a second, but I'm sorry. Do you really believe God got hungry? No, but for real, next thing you're gonna be telling me is that God was thinking, oh mate, I'm a bit peckish. I might run to the corner shop for a cheeky Maltesers.
So he says he's going off topic.
But it's not.
Is he though? I mean, isn't that his actual point?
That is his actual point.
So then why do you say he's going off topic?
And again, once again, he shows how stupid Islam is. That he is unable to articulate what Christians believe when practically everyone else in the world can. So all he can do is tilt at windmills and attack strawmen because he is incapable, physically incapable, of articulating correct Christian belief. Because Allah is too stupid to know what Christians believe, so Muslims are required to be that stupid. The intelligence of their God is the maximum intelligence level that Muslims are allowed to have, which is why all the big buildings in places like Dubai are built by not Arabs, but Europeans, and with slave labor from other places, because it literally affects your brain to not be able to think critically at such a basic level.
Muslims know science. That's like claiming Muslims ended slavery. I'm sure that there are some moderate, liberal, barely Muslims who understand science. But you usually get guys like this who are trying to make a scientific argument, using some terms, totally botching it, even when they could make a coherent point. Like even when they could, because it's not specifically related to Islam, botch it because they have no clue what they're talking about, and then people are impressed. I mean, this video, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it has 250,000 views or something like that. It's highly watched by mostly Muslims, presumably.
And mostly Muslims do not realize how stupid and humiliating this is for them. How they look like, again, poo-throwing monkeys at this rate. And they're like, we're so smart. We're monkeys and we throw poo.
Einstein said something. Yay, Islam.
All right. Let's get all the way through the rest of his Christian argument and we'll stop after, okay?
Yep.
Okay, but let's get serious again. In the Bible, Matthew 24:36, Jesus says, "No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." We can take away three things from this. Firstly, Jesus was on earth when he said this, which puts him in the box and makes him dependent. Never mind the fact that he was born from a woman, so he definitely is dependent, and there's no way about it. Secondly, Jesus says he, the Son, does not know the hour. As you can observe, he wasn't and was limited.
Hold on here. Got some buffering issues.
Give it a second. Let it finish. Didn't download it ahead of time, I guess, this time.
Yeah, I didn't well, I did download it, and I can switch to the downloaded copy.
Nope.
But
Still buffering.
when I play it from my system, then you guys get annoyed because you can hear other sounds.
Oh my goodness,
sometimes.
yes. I don't know how you live. This is like, it makes me lose my mind. It's as bad as the people who have smoke alarms beeping in their houses.
All right, let's try this again. So, guys, I'm sure you're all shocked to learn that Jesus doesn't know the hour. You've totally never heard this argument before.
As you can observe, he wasn't all-knowing and was limited. And lastly, the Bible makes a clear distinction between the Father and the Son. They are two different beings with two different minds.
The Bible makes a distinction between the Father and the Son?
Oh my goodness.
Man, that's totally incompatible with Trinitarian beliefs, isn't it, Mary?
Oh my goodness. I know, it's just so special. So again, does this creator have any concept that the divine person took on human substance, and the human substance is not divine substance, and no Christian thinks it is? He does not have any concept.
Yeah, I mean,
he has no concept because he's like, that Jesus was born, so he's dependent. Also, he claims that to be outside the box means that you cannot interact with the box, essentially. So he's making the argument that to create something, then you must be so far removed from it that you cannot interact with it. And that is not at all any part of a physics
Mary,
belief. If you're talking about a closed system versus an open system, right? Because the Earth as a closed system excludes the sun, which comes in from outside, right? But the sun, to act on the Earth system, in fact, interacts with the Earth and participates in the Earth. No one in the world thinks that to be the cause of something,
Hmm.
an
Means you
external
can't go
cause,
inside.
means that you do not interact with it.
Yeah, I mean this argument is so dumb, but it's so common for Muslims, right? But human beings can create. I can build a house, and then I can go live inside that house. But according to Muslims, that would be defying logic.
No, clearly you can't. So,
Yeah,
and
if
again,
if I build a house, I can't live in it. Only someone else can live in it.
the distinctions of person between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are very clear in Scripture. So is the unity of being, that there is one being, that
Hmm.
Christ is called our great God and Savior. He is God. Now, he has also taken on the person of the Son, took on flesh.
Yeah, so
But
this guy
the
makes
divine
he
substance
has
did
3
not
points,
change.
right? Mary, he
So,
has 3 points. His first point is that Jesus is on earth, which I'm sure is very shocking to all Christians. We never would have figured that out on our own. And the
guess what? In
second
the
point,
Quran, Allah is inside a bush.
uh-huh,
Well, I guess he's
uh-huh.
not God then. Oh my goodness, he was inside the bush. And that's not even
Yeah, and he
likely.
sticks his foot in hellfire, right? So unless hellfire is uncreated, then Allah couldn't have created hell. Or I mean, he couldn't be God if he puts his foot in hellfire. Yeah. But then the second point, not knowing the hour, that one actually requires some explanation. We've been through it a million billion times. If someone actually needs an explanation, let me know. But that one actually requires some explanation. Then the Son being distinct from the Father, again,
Nope.
every Christian on the history of the world
Yep.
would say agree, right? So he's telling us two things that no Christian would have the slightest problem with, and then one that if you were unknowledgeable, you would need an
I
explanation
have a
for.
question for him. Is Allah's knowledge his sight or his hearing?
I mean, they're
Are
distinct,
they,
right?
are they truly distinct? Well, then you've got multiple gods.
According to him, at least.
If you have different attributes, because you can't have a limitation in God. So if you have one of his attributes be his sight and another attribute being his hearing is not his sight is not his hearing, and so you have circumscribedness of his existence, aside from the fact that he is a huge giant in outer space which is full of air and clouds and water, right? Aside from that, if you wipe away all the fact that Allah is just a huge human being without a butthole, then you still end up with real distinctions in being. So, how dare you claim that distinctions of personhood but not of being is a problem when you have real distinctions in being? And Allah's sight has no will associated with it. Allah's sight has no knowledge associated with it. His will is ignorant. His sight is ignorant. His hearing is
You could say it
blind.
doesn't know the hour.
Indeed. The only thing that knows anything is his knowledge. The rest of him doesn't know.
Uh-huh.
So how dare you say that it is a problem that the Son does not have the authority of declarative knowledge over the hour
Uh-huh.
because of the personal relationship in the Godhead, when your God only at most 1/7 of him, I believe, at most, has any knowledge whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's fine. My hand is blind; it has no sight. Why? Because I'm a human being. I'm made up of pieces. I'm made up of parts. I'm limited. My hand is limited to this space. This is my left hand. That's all there is to it. It's this. It's bound in space. It's bound in time. Right now it's here. Now it's here. Because I'm a creation. So that's not a problem for me because that is a property that belongs to the category of created things. Allah has the same circumscribed nature where you can talk about where he is in a way that really makes sense, not through incarnation, but because in his own body, and he has one, whether or not you give all of his body parts that name or not, just because he does it, in his put together being, he is circumscribed in all these ways. That is how the sources portray him. So how dare you talk about the declarative knowledge of the Son in the incarnation in his role right now and say that, oh, well, that they can't be God whenever your God's sight lacks any knowledge. Never mind declarative ability. His knowledge also can't talk. His speech has no knowledge. His speech is ignorant and must be directed by his will, which apparently draws from his knowledge in this highly dependent relationship. Because for Allah to speak, his will must direct speech from his knowledge using power. So how dare you? How dare you?
Yep. All he's doing is saying Christian doctrine and pretending it's a problem.
Well, I mean, he's not even articulating.
Well, okay, not saying Christian doctrine, strawmanning Christian doctrine, and saying it's a problem, but he hasn't justified any of these assumptions, right? How is it justified that a creator can't enter his creation? How is it justified that the distinctions within the Godhead mean they're two gods? It isn't, right? No Christian has a problem with this. Yet this is his grand argument. I'll give him credit, right? He did go to eating food instead of using the bathroom. So he's at like a second grade level, not a kindergarten level. But come on. It's supposed to be a serious argument, right?
Not to mention the Holy Spirit, which means God in Christianity is really not singular. For those reasons, Christianity simply can't be true. Moving on to Hinduism.
All right, so that's all he's going to say about Christianity.
Yep.
Is it's not singular. It's not monotheism. Except the only people who ever fail to understand how Christianity is monotheistic are Muslims.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep, that's it. So let's go all the way through Hinduism to the end.
Yep.
Because I can destroy that too. His arguments for everything is terrible. But,
yeah, I mean, Mary and I don't believe in Hinduism, right?
No.
But
his arguments for Hinduism are also going to be completely moronic.
It fails the first condition since many of the gods are dependent upon each other. And among all the deities, none of them are really considered to be all-powerful, all-knowing, etc. Hence, they're limited. They're also polytheists, which makes them fail the third condition. Buddhism doesn't believe in any kind of...
Okay,
that's it.
So,
all he did is assert that the truth has to be monotheistic. That's all he did.
Well, and here's the problem. Guess what? Guess who the Brahman is, right? The Brahman is that eternal thing that is the first cause in Hinduism. Hinduism says that there are these supernaturally powerful creatures that deserve worship. Mm-hmm. Polytheism does not assert that every god is a creator.
Right, that's true.
Like, they don't say you should worship them because they're creators. No, they're saying they're super powerful, so you should worship them. That is their argument, that they should be worshipped as gods because they're super powerful. For the same reason that a lot of you have ancestor worship, for instance, because your spirit's supposed to do something for other people. You deify your kings because you decide that things other than the creator are deserving of worship. Now, does Hinduism in its more developed form, after contact with other religious movements, in its current form, not proto Hinduism, which was a more typical pantheistic, had a more typical pantheon with this god and that god with different responsibilities and all this sort of stuff, some of which are created, some of which are not. But in its most developed form, what does it say? It says that Brahman is the supreme universal spirit that is eternal and unchanging, and that everything else that happens is a dream of the Brahman who is asleep.
Mhm.
And in fact, he is entirely outside of reality, because reality is his dream. It's only happening in his mind. It's essentially simulation theory. Okay? And then in the end, we kind of return to this Brahman existence after the cycles of birth and destruction, death, and everything else. He has not been able to argue against. Islam cannot mount a defense against fully developed Hinduism. Now, I can, because I'm a Christian, and I can explain the fact that Brahman is essentially the sleeping being who dreams things up is a result of the inability of a truly of a being that is truly one without any kind of personal distinction, as well as not having the material distinction. Because there is no distinction, he cannot be sentient. And so this dream is where these virtual things appear that allow for sentience, basically. The Hindus realized that to be God, they eventually figured out that to be God, in terms of the absolute creator, you have to have no distinction in being, but then they couldn't deal with the fact that if you have no distinction in being, you cannot have sentience because you have nothing to think about. Thought requires both a subject and an object. We, in a vacuum, can have distinctions because we're made up of parts, and parts of us can think about other parts of us. We don't have perfect knowledge. We can think about things that are non-existent, and we can be dependent. That's not a problem. But the ultimate cannot be dependent. So we can't even think about things that don't exist in order to be sentient, because then his sentience would be dependent on the things that don't exist, right? The real distinction between persons in Christianity, the knower, the knowing, and the known, the lover, the beloved, and the loving, those are that which allow a being that is sufficiently singular in substance, totally the same in substance, one substance, no distinction, to still have sentience, because otherwise you have no sentience. For God to be love and to be knowledge requires this Trinitarian distinction. That is required for God to be God. And the Hindus got so far as to, the Muslims just have a big old giant in the sky that they try to rationalize in various ways, and it's very pathetic. The Shia went, okay, let's throw out everything that Muhammad actually said, because this is just embarrassing, and say that he is perfectly one in substance, and just pretend that that works. The Hindus were smarter than even the Shias, because they realized they had a problem here, that they have no sentience in their God, and so they make his sentience a dream that he has, this virtual thing, this virtual distinction in himself. But Christians alone have the solution. We're the only ones who can answer the problem of the necessity for the oneness of being, yet for there to be interpersonality, for there to be a subject-object distinction for thought to take place. The Gnostics couldn't, because when the Gnostics did it, they had their pleroma doesn't think, their essential, like it, the being before everything else doesn't think, and instead it has to essentially shoot part of itself away from itself for there to be that subject-object distinction. And so there is division, which creates finitude where there can't be finitude, and is like cutting yourself up is a change of yourself, essentially. So the Gnostics can't answer it. Only Christians have the answer. We are the only ones who have the answer. And he cannot actually articulate Hinduism correctly because he would have no answer to it. He would have no answer to why. He could say, well, they shouldn't be associating all these other lesser gods with the Brahman. He could not say why the Brahman can't be God, because the Brahman's a better God than Allah is.
So a couple comments here. Mary with dropping all the knowledge there. everything Mary said really had absolutely nothing to do with the video, though, because our Muslim just wags his finger and says, polytheism bad. And that is the extent of his argument. From Snoopy here, as far as I remember, Hindus don't attack Christianity. That's false. There's plenty of anti-Christian rhetoric in Hindu areas. The nation of India, which is of course where most Hindus live, is one of the top 10 countries for persecution of Christians. Now, they don't usually make theological arguments. It's usually more like Christians are bribing people to convert. They're trying to destroy our culture and stuff like that. But of course, any individual Hindu may or may not feel the same way. But there's plenty of Hindu people who attack Christianity and create all kinds of lies about it. And I'm sure there's plenty who attack it theologically as well. Although the kind of stuff that we associate with theological dialogue is not really at the top of the Hindu mindset, generally speaking. Andrew Martin said when a person is on his deathbed, his death will be interrupted by Jack Ray giving a membership. Indeed, it will be. Indeed, it will be. So the other comment here, which I wanted to bring up, which is not a joke, from Michael. Wouldn't henotheism also satisfy the need for no conflict as long as one God is supreme and all other gods depend on one God? I'm not understanding how he proved the need for monotheism. That's because he didn't prove it. I gave this as one possible example, right? Where there's one supreme God and other lesser gods. They wouldn't even have to be created.
Yeah, and
they could be uncreated.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean by his terrible attempt at dragging in Hinduism, because he just mischaracterized it as if they believe that all these other gods are creators. They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
They believe that all the gods depend on the one God, but that God is so far beyond, like, the Brahman is not appropriate for worship because he doesn't respond to you. He's having a dream. Like, you can't ask him for anything. So within that system, it would not even make sense to petition the Brahman, right? Instead, you petition the gods who respond to you and have power to respond. Like, the Brahman doesn't work like that. It's, through the realization and everything, you can rid yourself and go to and unite with the Brahman in this most developed system. But again, Islam cannot answer this. It's just dumb, right?
Mm-hmm. Aisha's Goat got one of the gifted memberships. Couldn't have gone to a better username anyway than Aisha's Goat. Perfect username there. All right, let's see what he has to say about Buddhism, because again, we're not arguing for
one final
any
thing.
means,
Catholic
we're not arguing for Hinduism.
Catholic Prince points out that Allah is the God of maybes and mights. Allah has to test you to find out whether or not you will follow him. He doesn't know. He has to test you. He tests you to find out because he doesn't know. There are all these mayhaps, maybe, might in the things that, and perhaps Allah might do this. Perhaps Allah might do that. Like, Allah doesn't know. Allah will affirm that people know things and then be unable or unwilling to provide Muhammad with the answer when it is a test of his prophethood.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a test of Muhammad's prophethood, whether or not he can give the story of the sleepers in Ephesus as it is in the Torah. First of all, he gives the story of the 7 sleepers in Ephesus and says it's in the Torah. But additionally, some people know how long the boys slept. Some people know how many there were.
Mm-hmm.
But Muhammad doesn't.
Allah, there's some know, right?
Yeah, Allah knows that some people know, but either can't be bothered to tell Muhammad and actually make him look more legitimate, although, like, denying that it's in the Torah would have made him look much more legitimate, or he just doesn't know himself, so he can't relay the information.
Yeah, that is a bit strange, right? Muhammad, prove you're a prophet by giving us this story. Okay. I forgot to say inshallah, though, so it will be a while before I can give you the answer. I got the answer. Allah has come back to me. He says, some people know the answer to this question, but I know the answer better.
Yeah, but won't tell him to verify. Nope. He just claims that he knows it.
All right, so there was a question as to what henotheism is. So henotheism usually is used for a system with one supreme god and other lesser gods, although strictly speaking, it just means someone who says there's only one god that's worthy of worship to me, but there are possibly maybe existing other gods.
Yeah, but you wouldn't even have to do that. I used it more generally to mean that there's a supreme god and other gods too. But
right,
like in Hinduism, in their system, it makes no sense to worship the creator particularly. Like,
yeah, but I mean, strictly speaking, strictly speaking, the term itself doesn't set up the hierarchy, which is why the comment said if henotheism and hierarchy, right?
Yep. Again, he has no answer for this. The reason why we don't worship angels is because God himself, who satisfies all the demands to be God, tells us not to. That's why. That's why he says it's not appropriate.
Uh-huh. All right, so let's see what he says about Buddhism. I mean, not off to a great start here. Buddhism doesn't believe in any kind of God at all.
Oh, wait, bring
up some Buddhists.
Fish's comment. It kills me. Brahman beats Allah as a god in his sleep. It's true. All right.
All right, so we haven't heard his Buddhism, and I'll rewind it a second or two, but not off to a good start here, right? Buddhism doesn't believe in any kind of God at all. That's not actually true. I mean, that's common of many Buddhists, but the system itself doesn't necessarily make that assertion. All right, let's see what he says.
They're also polytheists, which makes them fail the third condition. Buddhism doesn't believe in any kind of God at all, which disqualifies it as a true religion since we concluded God must exist due to the conservation laws. Leaving
That's it. That's all he says about Buddhism is his false claim that Buddhism says there's no God. Really?
Yeah. Buddhism does believe in an absolute.
Right.
And the absolute is so
many Buddhists don't believe in a personal God, but that's not the same thing as saying there's no creative force, right?
So there is creation, there is a creative force. It's not a personal God, but you haven't made an argument for a personal God. I can make an argument for a sentient God and show how Shia can't be sentient. You know, the Sunni God can't be a God at all because he's made of pieces, and the Shia God in his oneness cannot be sentient.
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism argues a non-sentient God. Guess what? Shiism requires a non-sentient God. I agree. A non-sentient God cannot possess the will for creation. It can't just be like a force. To be that cause would require personality and will, which Buddhism lacks, but so does Shiism. So there you go.
Yeah, that was the most lazy rebuttal I've ever heard in my life. But okay. So now he's going to have to deal with Judaism, which I can't imagine, given his three principles, how in the world he's going to dismiss Judaism, other than maybe a blatant lie about what
they deny Muhammad.
But that wasn't one of his criteria.
That's
not one of his criteria.
That's going to be my guess. I haven't watched any of the rest of this. I stopped halfway through the Christian, and I knew I could destroy whatever his supposed 5 great religions are. Without any preparation.
So I'm actually very curious what he's going to say about Judaism, because he hasn't set up anything, even pretending he made actual points, which he didn't, to distinguish Islam from Judaism, right? Let's see.
Judaism and Islam both believe in one God that's unlimited, independent, and singular, so they both fit within the 3 conditions. So how do we determine which of the 2 is correct? We find our
Whoa. He has the dancing Sufis. This is the video. Right? Yep. That's hilarious. I don't know what I mean, again, right? This is a totally pointless effort.
Yeah, it's a totally pointless joke. Let's go ahead and finish his supposed rebuttal.
He spent a ton of effort making this video, but he doesn't make any points.
Not any coherent ones, but you don't have to be coherent to argue for Islam because Islam is incoherent. All right.
I guess. All right. Yeah. So how are we going to determine between them? Because you set up 3 criteria, and you just admit that Judaism meets all your 3 criteria, which I'm kind of surprised. I thought you'd at least be consistent and make up a lie how Judaism doesn't.
The two is correct. We find our answer within their disagreements. The greatest difference between the two religions is the acceptance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi.
Oh, there you go.
I got it. Yes.
How is this the deciding factor? You haven't even remotely established that believing in Muhammad is required.
Nope. All right. Let's keep going.
All right. So
Video.
agreed. Muslims believe in Muhammad and the Quran, and Jews don't. He's got a minute to go, so I guess he's going to give some sort of argument for Muhammad or the Quran, or both.
Let's go.
As a prophet. So it stands to reason that if we can prove Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a prophet, then Islam is the truth. So how do we figure out if he was a prophet or not? Well, simple.
Yes, how do we?
Through his prophecies. The Quran was the
Oh
greatest.
no. So this idiot doesn't even know what it means to be a prophet. Right? I mean, he's asserting a common misunderstanding because of the word, right? But to be a prophet doesn't mean to predict the future.
But God
not
did
what prophet
say that
means.
if he speaks for God a word that God did not say, like Muhammad did whenever he gave the satanic verses, that he should be put to death and he is not a prophet at all. And also that if he makes a prediction that does not come to pass, as Muhammad very often did, that he's not a prophet and should not come and should be destroyed. Also, that you have to speak in the name of Yahweh. It's also a requirement.
The video unironically proves Judaism to be true.
Nice.
So I'm keeping the segment about Muhammad prophecies short because this video is taking so long enough as it is, lol. But if you want a full video on prophecies and miracles, then let me know.
So the Quran says
the video is 4 minutes and 39 seconds long. That is not a long video.
No, it took him so long. It's taking him a long.
Yeah, I
It
know.
does. It
I know.
absolutely did. It took him forever. This took a lot of effort. But
well, yeah, it took a lot of effort to put in all those pointless edits for sure.
Well, I mean, it keeps the Muslims like entertained, sort of like the videos of train running together with.
Right. So to be clear, I'm not against a highly edited video. I put a ton of effort into editing my videos. But you don't just put in things because they're cool pictures.
He does.
Right? They have to actually have a point. And none of these things they put in have any point whatsoever. It's like, I like this clip. I'm going to put it in.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. So he's already botched the definition of what being a prophet means, but he's established a test. Let's go with his test that we can tell whether Muhammad was a true prophet or not based on his prophecies. All right. Let's go.
Any prophet received, and in the Quran it describes many things which were found out to be true thousands and thousands of years later.
He's already done it.
Oh.
He's already done it. He's already called Muhammad Allah. He said that the Quran, now he's going to go to like some stupid scientific miracles or whatever, but the Quran is Muhammad's prophecies that prove Muhammad to be a prophet.
That is pretty funny. I mean, because he's saying that the Quran is Muhammad's prophecies, not that the Quran is genuinely from Allah because it has scientific miracles, which I know he's going to go to.
Again,
who's taking bets? What's he going to go to? He's going to go to scientific miracles. That's where my money is. I did not watch beyond halfway through the Christianity is false. I have not watched this. This is what my money's on. Everybody else, put down your poker chips and remember that casting lots and stuff is witchcraft according to Allah. So let's commit some witchcraft here and take some bets on what's going on, because I think it's going to be.
I'm gonna go with scientific miracles as well. The way he phrased it, revealed many things. But I just want to play this back so you can see that he is suggesting that Muhammad is the test, and the proof that he's a prophet is what's in the Quran. And by the way, I just wrote around to a random segment here, and look, he has a random TikTok video that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. He just put it in because he liked it.
Then Islam is the truth. So how do we figure out if he was a prophet or not? Well, simple. Through his prophecies.
His
The Quran was the
prophecies.
greatest miracle any prophet
The
received.
Quran.
And in the Quran, it describes many things which were found out to be true thousands and thousands of years later. It predicted the age of the earth, the development of
Age of the Earth. Age of the Earth. Wait, I don't even know that one. That one's so
years
obscure.
later. It predicted the
Predicted the age of the Earth. What has he got here on screen?
I can't even read that.
Well, he's got like
That
a
is
scientific
hilarious.
picture.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
like, Big Bang. 2 days.
Okay,
4
ready?
days is 2/3. 2 days is 1/3. Fine. So 2/3 of the current estimation of the age of the Earth is 9.3 billion years, and 1/3 is 14. Great. He has his numbers backwards. He has his numbers backwards.
Yeah. He has his numbers backwards, and because he has his numbers backwards, he can. No, he does have.
No, he says
No,
2/3.
his numbers are correct. It's 9.3.
Oh, up to there. Okay, up to there. Gotcha.
4.7.
Except that the 14 billion years isn't the current age estimate of the universe, which is why I got confused. But yeah, it's not 23.3. That was just me being stupid. Okay. If you want to know more about this miracle, please research into more accurate Arabic translations. Most English translations translate the word ayam to days when there's more representative age or an epoch. A lot is meaning is lost in translations. Even if it said 2 ages and 4 ages, it doesn't. But that doesn't give you the age of the Earth.
No.
Oh, okay, I get it. What he's saying is if we take the estimate of the universe and we say 1/3 of that time is how old the Earth is, then it's correct. Okay. Let me just do this. Age of universe, because I don't want to misquote and go by memory. Current scientific consensus, 13.8 billion years for the age of the universe. All right.
Goodness.
13.8 divided by 3, right? That's going to give us the age of the Earth. Why is my calculator not opening? Fine. 13.8 divided by 3 is 4.6. All right. Age of Earth. 4.5. Close enough, right? Close enough.
Yeah, I have a question. When were all the stars, excepting the sun, created? On which part of this? In this first part, this Big Bang out here, or after the formation of the Earth? Most stars, are they greater than or less than?
Are you saying in Quran or reality?
In reality, are they greater than or less than 4 billion years old?
So most of the stars that we would observe, not necessarily most of the stars in current existence, would be older.
Yeah. And yet the visible stars are created when? On the last day. On that 6th day.
So they are,
according to,
using his logic here, 2.3 billion years old.
Oh yeah, on the last day, according to his logic, the visible stars were all created in the lower heaven with lights. And again, this is the lower heaven. And that is the miracle. Is it ye that deny him who created the earth in 2 days, and do ye join equals in him? He set on the earth mountains standing firm, etc., etc., all these various things that he happened. Thus, so he completed them as 7 earths in 2 days. Or excuse me, hang on. Is that 7?
So actually,
hey,
Mary, if we're taking this passage seriously, right? He created the heavens and earth in 6 days, which means the entire span of creation is 6 days. Then he subdivides it and says he created the earth in 2 days, which would actually mean he's been creating the earth for 4 point whatever billion years old. not that he created it 4 point whatever billion years ago, right? We're taking the, because it's a parallel phrase that he created heavens and earth in 6 days.
Yes.
So whatever that means, the earth being created in 2 days has to mean the same thing, which means the earth has been gradually being created over billions of years, according to this guy's theory.
Well, there's also a huge number of conflicting stories that Muhammad told about what he created when. Allah created the clay on Saturday and the mountains on Sunday and the trees on Monday and things entailing labor on Tuesday and light on Wednesday and the animals spread on Thursday and Adam after Asr on Friday, the last creation, the last hours of Friday between the afternoon and night. And that part is consistent. Adam is like the last creation and all the different ones, but they're all different. They're all different. So again, the Jews came to the prophet and asked him about the creation of the heavens and the earth. He said that Allah created the earth on Sunday and Monday. He created the mountains and the uses they possess on Tuesday. On Wednesday, he created trees, water, cities, and cultivated barren land. These are 4 days. Say, do you really not believe in the one who created the earth in 2 days and set up others like him? That is the Lord of the world. He made it firmly anchored. He made firmly anchored mountains above it, and blessed it, and decreed, etc., etc., etc. And decreed it to contain the amount of food it provides, all in 4 days, equally for the asking for those who ask. On Thursday, he created heaven. On Friday, he created the stars, the sun, the moon, and the angels until 3 hours remained. On the first of these 3 hours, he created the terms of human life, who would live and who would die. In the second, he cast harm upon everything that is useful for mankind. And in the third, he created Adam and let him dwell in paradise.
And then, of course, you also got the 8 days of creation in the Quran itself. Yes. But again, this is a prophecy of Muhammad, not a prophecy, not supposed to be from Muhammad, according to
here's another one.
terms.
Allah created the soil on Saturday. Upon it, he created the mountains on Sunday. He created the trees on Monday. He created evil on Tuesday. He created light on Wednesday. He scattered the animals on the earth on Thursday. And he created Adam as the last of his creatures. Again, in the last hour of Friday. And that part is very consistent.
And unlike the Quran, those are actually Muhammad's words, right?
Yeah, these are actually Muhammad's words. Allah began the creation of the heavens and the earth on Sunday, and he finished on the last hour of Friday. Then, what about Sunday? On it, Allah created the earth and spread it out. They asked out Monday. He said, on it, he created Adam in another one. No, never mind. It isn't even that consistent. But it usually is that consistent, but it isn't. On Tuesday, he replied, on it, he created the mountains and water and so on. On Wednesday, he created food. On Thursday, he created the heavens. On Friday, he created night and day. On Saturday, and mentioned God's resting on it, he said, God, Allah be praised. We have created the heavens and earth and was between them in 6 days, and fatigue did not touch us, is what he revealed after that, as in the context of this supposed report. The two reports transmitted by us from the messenger of Allah have made it clear that the sun and the moon were created after God had created many things of his creation. That is because the hadith of Ibn Abbas on the authority of Muhammad indicates that Allah created the sun and the moon on Friday. If this is so, earth and heaven and was in them, except the angels and Adam, had been created before Allah created the sun and the moon. All this thus existed while there was no light and no day, since night and day are but nouns designating the hours known through its traversal by the sun and the moon of the course of the sphere. Now, if it is correct that the earth and the heaven and what is between them, except what we have mentioned, were in existence when there was no sun and no moon, the conclusion is that all this existed when there was no night and no day.
So we have a
result from
prophecy.
the following hadith that reported.
I think you've given enough examples.
Yeah.
Point is, right, that Muhammad said all kinds of different things on all kinds of different occasions, and Allah speaks at least 2 different things as well. You can't really reconcile the 2 things in the Quran, and you can't reconcile any of them to any of the things that Muhammad said, because he usually made 7 days of creation, which is not 6 or 8. I estimate that this stream will run for 10 ages. Now, just assign age an arbitrary factor. All hand to Allah. I predicted the runtime perfectly, which is exactly what this guy does. I just want to point out one more thing here. which I just noticed. He says, translate the word ayam to days, which is Arabic plural, right? So fine, days. But the plural apparently means age. So he's not actually saying, maybe he's saying that the singular is age, but I think actually he's saying that the plural is age. So it's 6 age, not ages, 6 age. And the reality is that the Arabic term has a semantic range, which could include periods of time, but the normal meaning is the normal meaning of day. Works not unlike the English term, which sometimes day can mean a long period of time, or the Hebrew, which has the exact same cognate, right? Yom is the Hebrew word for day as well. Yeah, but somehow this is a unique miracle that proves Muhammad is a true prophet, because you can use a word for day to mean
Now,
age.
consistently, Muhammad took a common belief of Jews and Muslims of this time and asserted this as being the teaching of Allah. So the world is supposed to be 7,000 years and then the end comes. The age of the world has to end after 7,000 years.
All right, let's get his next one. Oh,
or 6,000 in some of them. They actually ditched the last 1,000 for some reason. So sometimes they just say that no, it's the duration of the world will only be for 6,000 years in some of them. But they understand ages to be 1,000 years, and creation was a certain number of 1,000 years, and then the world exists the same number of 1,000 years before the end. And some of them are putting it equating to the same length as creation, because Allah didn't do anything in particular on the seventh day. They sometimes cut that out.
Or the 8th day, since one time Allah says it's 8 days. All right. Yep. I have a feeling he's going to rattle all these things off in like 2 seconds, right?
And just one last thing. Muhammad said the world is one of the weeks of the other world, 7,000 years. So in Allah's accounting of time, each day is 1,000 years. And the duration of our world is like a week of Allah, meaning it's only going to be 7,000 years long.
All right, let's do the next one here.
Age of the Earth, the development of an embryo, and the
development of an embryo. Mary and I have a whole show on that one. We won't go into that in great detail, but I mean, he didn't even have it long enough. He didn't even have it long enough for me to really pause it. That's how long.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't really have to pay attention to it. Blood clots are not embryos developing. Men do not have their semen in their backbone. Women don't
there's
have
no argument
in their ribs that can make either milk or babies. And bones are not formed before flesh is. You don't have a little baby skeleton inside of you before you have flesh on it.
And there's no argument on the screen. All there is a picture of development and the Quran verse. So didn't even attempt to make an argument there. Just asserted it.
Development of an embryo and the sound of a neutron.
Sound of a neutron star. All right. So the word is derived from the Arabic verb tarka, meaning to strike, and into the agentive conjugated doer form taik, meaning, and then that's where he cuts it off. He's obviously copying some Muslim apologetic website. Does he quote the verse? There we go. By the sky and the night comer, what can make you know what is the night comer? It is a piercing star. So I guess piercing, right? Piercing is telling us what the sound of a neutron star is, except let's
have a sound.
Let's pretend, for the sake of argument, that the Quran is saying something about sound, which I think is not remotely likely. But let's say, for the sake of argument, it's saying something about a sound. So you're telling me now that whatever this event is, the Quran's predicting comes with a neutron star?
I mean,
has this event come? I mean, what?
That's just so stupid.
What is this verse even? I mean, what is this verse really? By the sky and night comer, right? Do you know, Mary, off the top of your head? Oh, so apparently it's
Tariq
actually night
is
comer.
from a striking a thing, hitting. Originally signifies a comer by night because one who comes by night finds the door shut and knocking at the doors becomes necessary. The comer by night here is Muhammad, and the revelation of the Quran is spoken as taking a blessed place, supposedly.
All right, so apparently comer by night is actually the tariq verb that they're talking about here. So by the heaven and the neutron star, and what will make thee know that the neutron star by night is the star of piercing brightness. There is not a soul, but over it is a keeper. How is this a prediction of the sound of a neutron star?
The sound. I love that. The sound. Like,
I mean, I don't like all the scientific miracle things are stupid, but this one I don't even understand how they're getting anything from this. By the heaven and a particular type of star, we will make thee know what that particular star is at nighttime. And then it says the star. Oh, I get it. Okay. I think I figured it out. So because it's a piercing bright star, that's how you know that this is the right star.
I don't even know what.
And I'm guessing, right? I have not encountered that. I had vaguely heard this, but I'd never really looked at this argument because it's so incredibly stupid. But I'm guessing that the Muslim apologist is going to say something along the lines of neutron stars are the brightest of all stars. And here.
They're not the brightest from Earth, so I don't.
And therefore, this is proof of the Quran because, yeah,
something.
I don't know. And then he created water pouring forth from the star, I guess, coming from beneath the back and the ribs. I'm just reading the Quran here. Surely he is able to return him on that day when hidden things are manifested. Then he will have no strength nor helper. By the cloud giving rain and the earth opening, surely it is a decisive word, and it is not a joke. Surely they plan a plan, and I plan a plan, and so grant the disbelievers a respite, let them alone for a while. This is that's the entirety of the surah. It's Surah 86, for those who want to look it up. I don't know what translation that was, off because I was quoting it from a website talking about it. But whatever translation that was, right? I'm sure other ones are not all that different than it. It's highly poetic, right? I have a hard time figuring out what this is supposed to tell me. If the comer by night is Muhammad, then I can make some
That's
sense.
the Ahmadiyya translation, but it's just Allah swearing by things that sound really cool. And anytime you have, and what can make you know whatever is, it means that.
All right, yeah, let's do this. Sorry, let's do this.
Muhammad, ask him, like, what is even that word? You're being stupid again, Muhammad. Your poetry sucks. And so he says a word that's like, by the night, and Tariq.
All right, so let me just Mary, let me just read the Sahih International. All right, so it's barely different, but let me just do it for the sake. Yeah. So I'm not accused of using a heretical translation or whatever. By the sky and the night comer, so identical, and what you can make you know what is the night comer, identical. It is a piercing star, identical there as well. There's no soul, but that it has over it a protector. Seems to be a different thought. Yeah, so let man observe from what he was created.
To be clear, what happened originally is he said, by the sky and the night comer, there is not a soul except there's a protector over it. And someone's like, Muhammad, what is this Tariq? Nobody knows what you're talking about. He's like, that's the piercing star. It's the really bright looking star. It's just his poetic name that Allah told me about. So
their argument, right? Their argument is that there's this stupid word in here. Mm-hmm. And so then the rest of the surah, right, is like, man, look at yourself. Know that you're created out of the gushing fluid from between the backbone and the ribs. Know that Allah will reveal the secrets on the last day. And by the way, I'm a deceiver. Because, you know, planning a plan, right, is deception. Indeed, it is a decisive statement. Yes, it's very decisive here. Whoever wrote this has no clue, since he's telling man to remember that he was created from the fluid emerging between the backbone and the ribs.
And then, even though he says that, oh, by the way, I mean a star by that, of course, the exegetes have to give it a different meaning. Because even though Allah himself says, I mean this really bright star, they're like, no, 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 Allah, we know better. By the thing that comes in an aggressive way, what is actually meant here is the rain. So they have to fix him and help him.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's where that other translation was way different, right? Because they tried to make the fluid rain, but it's clearly semen, actually, right?
Well, no. This one here, it's not anything like it. No, it's hang on.
No, so that other translation, the one I read, said rain, but here it says fluid ejected, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs.
Yeah, but we're talking about a totally different part of the same surah. Wait 1 second.
No. I'm not saying what you're talking. No,
okay.
You misunderstood what I was saying. I was saying I said that like the first verses were identical between the two translations, but that's where they vary, because the Ahmadi translation, which apparently is what I was accidentally reading, they smuggled in that interpretation that this is supposed to be about rain. That the exegetes have added to the text for no reason. And so they pretend that fluid, which is obviously semen, really means rain. That's what they did with their translation.
Well, they're smuggling in the rain to a completely separate verse.
I know that. I get that, Mary. I get that, right? Because the exegetes, are saying by the sky and the rain, right? That's what they're claiming.
Yeah. And so he's just
but
using
the Ahmadis then put the rain in the fluid, and they probably did get it from that interpretation. They just misplaced it, right? I think that's probably what they did. All right, who cares? Let's get that was. I don't think he's going to give another. It sounded like that was his third and final proof.
Oh my goodness, it's truly from Allah, because heaven knows that piercing
sound of a neutron star
are neutron stars.
I mean, if this verse said, when you observe a star that looks like this, know that it has a sound like this.
A sound, too. Okay. A sound.
Yeah, right. I'm granting that. Right. I'm granting that, although not actually correct. I'm granting that, but that's not remotely what the verse said. There's nothing about sound in here at all, right? Except that this, but here, you know what he says here. The word is derived from Arabic verb meaning to strike.
Here we go. There was a difference opinion about it. Some say it is Saturn, the planet in the seventh heaven. Another says it is the Pleiades. Another said it is Capricorn. Another says the piercing star is a star in the seventh heaven, and no other stars inhabit it. So when the stars take their places in the heaven, it descends and is with them. Then it returns to its place in the seventh heaven, which is Saturn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm pretty sure this is actually a different Arabic word. He actually copied the first sentence of a Wikipedia article. I looked up where the words came from, and I'm betting it's not the same word, because it's talking about a verb, and this isn't a verb, right?
Well, it's from the same same root.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything as far as meaning goes. I mean,
it's
quite
not
often
even it's not a normal word at all. That's why it was confusing. So Muhammad kind of used a word that means to strike and kind of made up his own.
I mean, there's a reason why every translation
version of it, and it didn't really make much sense. Like the striker. But who's striking anything, for heaven's sake? Who's whacking anything? Do neutron stars strike? No.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason none of the translators are translating anything remotely like the verb. All right, so there are, well, actually, I guess it's a participle in the sentence. So it is sort of a verb, interestingly enough. Now, participle obviously doesn't usually, or certainly not always, have the same meaning as the verb from which it derives. But in the noun form, it means a path or a way, which obviously is nothing. Which is
like
why
strike out.
Which actually that makes sense, right? So if it means a way or a path or whatever, that's why they would interpret the participle form as a comer, one who comes, right? And I don't know why they're adding night specifically, but you can see how that would be related. Traveling on a path and coming. I can see how the translators are making that interpretation.
But yeah, it's just Muhammad trying to be poetic again, and it being so obscure that people listening to him while he was trying to be like the super cool poetic dude going, what are you talking about? And this happens all the time in Islam, that people are like, Muhammad, we have no idea what you're trying to say. And the perfectly clear Quran needs extra explanations like, and what can make you understand whatever blank is, which reoccurs repeatedly, and it is an indication somebody asked Muhammad what the heck that word that he just said meant.
So we got Sentinel Apologetics in the chat with a super chat. And my bot was not running. I'll get that fixed here, but very good super chat. I started watching at the start of the Dawah video, eagerly waiting if the Muslim fell for the public myth trap whenever Einstein is mentioned, that mass and energy are quote unquote the same thing. Sure enough, he did. So unlike this Muslim, Sentinel Apologetics has a scientific background. If you want to join, Rob, feel free. Theology.chat. Come on up and give your actual scientific perspective on this. I'd welcome that. We are otherwise fairly close to the end here, and I'll play the last segment
and I
of the
talked
video
about that it is telling you essentially how much energy is in a certain amount of mass, and how much mass could be made from a certain amount of energy, essentially, is what that is.
Right, but they're not the same thing.
They're not saying that they're the same thing, that we're like, I don't know, energy is just a
indistinguishable
form of
from matter. I don't know. Yeah. And regardless, it doesn't actually have anything to do with the Muslim's point anyway. Like, he just says that, and then he like sort of talks about an infinite regress without using the term, and then he goes into the law of conservation of mass and energy, which has nothing to do with either of those things.
Yeah, no, that just shows the relationship between them whenever the non-ordinary means is used. But anyway.
Yeah, let's go ahead and finish the video.
Up. Yeah. We're very close, aren't we?
Start to name a few. And even 1400 years later, no one has been able to produce a verse even similar to the Quran. All this from an illiterate man in the middle of an Arabian desert in the
Again. Okay, first of all, it's nonsense. People have produced many verses similar to the Quran, including jinn in the Quran itself. But how would that prove Muhammad's a prophet exactly, unless it's his words? I don't know.
And there's also the issue that that people were constantly reciting things that were not Quran officially, that are excluded from that. They had arguments over what was Quran or not. If it is so literally superb that it must come from Allah, it would be instantly obvious to anyone who heard the wrong thing that the other one is superior. If you cannot tell from a recitation which version is correct and which one is the corruption, that means that Allah is a moron and makes really stupid arguments, and so isn't a god at all, but is an idiot in a desert blubbering stupid things. Because people disagreed about recitations, that means that the Quran is not clearly from Allah, because of its perfection of language. Because there would be a contrast. There would be no question. Any native speaker immediately would go, oh, no, this one is from Allah. This is the way that it is said. It's so special, so wonderful. Who could possibly say this other thing, which is so inferior? If you can switch out words. Some from Allah, some from somebody's butt.
Mm-hmm.
And a hearer can't immediately tell which one will be which instantly by the superiority of one over another, then this is a stupid argument. If Allah is making a really stupid argument for the truth of his book, then he isn't God. So
yeah, I mean, the fact that he makes the argument disproves it already, because one, it's not even true that it's unlike anything else. And two, if it was, it wouldn't follow that it comes from God. So it's a double fail there. So no apologies says, I'm at work, hopefully next time, but I am making a science series soon. Well, thank you for the donation. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, this video, I don't know how much of the video you've seen so far, but the whole thing is just one scientific disaster after another. He just throws a bunch of words up there and has no idea what any of them mean, basically.
7th century. Judaism accepts Moses and rejects Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though they both received revelation, they both performed miracles, and were both spreading
I thought that Muhammad had no miracles, Mary. Interesting.
monotheism.
apparently the proof of the Quran is that the Quran is a filthy lie. And whenever it says that Muhammad has no miracles, it is a disgusting lie. We should not believe it. We must reject it. Instead, say that Muhammad had miracles, unlike what the Quran vehemently states repeatedly. And by throwing the Quran under the bus and saying there's a stupid, filthy book that lies about the wonderful Muhammad and all the miracles he did, that will save the Quran and Muhammad.
So this genius puts this up on the screen. Most of what is known about Moses from the Bible comes from the books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The majority of scholars consider the compilation of these books to go back to the Persian period, 538 to 332 BC, which occurred thousands of years after the life of Moses. In addition, it's been proven that the Bible and Torah has been changed multiple times, further weakening the source. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but let's not argue with the scholarship here or his bad interpretation of it. Let's just say that everyone knows that the books of Moses were written in 500 BC, to pick a round number. Is 600 AD, 630 AD before or after that?
That would be after.
By how much, Mary, approximately?
By 1130 years.
Oh, okay. So if this book, if being 1,000 years after makes a source unreliable, what does being 2,100 years after the source, after the event, mean for a source? Oh, that it's unreliable? Oh.
So then that would mean that it could have no reliable information about, let's say, Moses. But keep in mind that Allah, again, he's rescuing Muhammad by saying that the Quran is a stupid book that says wrong things, because the Quran says that the Christians and the Jews have between their hands the Torah and the Injil. And Allah is an idiot. He is wrong. He is a stupid liar. And he should not say this because it isn't true, because they did not have the Torah. It's been changed. So this guy is really smart because he knows the name Einstein. And he can explain to you that you should not trust these books that Allah tells you that the Jews and Christians should stand upon, or otherwise they stand upon nothing. Allah is the idiot. He's here to correct Allah and tell Allah, no, Allah, you keep saying that the Jews and the Christians will agree with Muhammad, but they don't because their books are corrupted. You keep saying that they have the books with them, but they don't because they've lost the books and they weren't written when they thought they were. They don't have it. Poor stupid Allah, let me help you out here and save you. So that is what he is saying.
Yep, that's pretty much what he is saying. We still got 30 more seconds somehow.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life and miracles were far better documented and more verifiable than that of Moses. So by this measure, it's very difficult to deny Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood.
By what measure?
What
You
miracle
told me
is
that the Quran-
documented that Muhammad said he did no miracles? The Quran says he does no miracles. A few hundred years later, people suddenly say, I remember this miracle he did. And it's always really stupid stuff.
Now, look at this slide, right? He just said on his previous slide that he copied from somewhere that the Bible, that the books of Moses were written 1,000 years after the life of Moses. Now in this slide, Moses, the Torah, written during his lifetime, check. He copied from two different places, and why did he put this up? Look, according to this slide that he put up, Moses passes all the tests, right? During his lifetime,
Yep.
known authorship.
And once again, now he's going after the New Testament, and again, he's saying, Allah,
If you
know
accept
you
Moses as a
said.
prophet, which is both the case for Jews
Except
and
he's not, right? He's not. He just copied this somewhere from somewhere. That whoever wrote this was attacking the New Testament, but he's arguing against Judaism. He already dismissed the New Testament. He
Well,
already
now he's
dismissed
throwing in
Christianity.
Christians too, so he's correcting Allah
I
again.
don't
Allah
think
is a
he
moron.
is.
This is both the case for Jews and Christians. You don't know.
All right, let's
So-
let's hear what he says. Let's hear what he
Go ahead.
says.
this measure, it's very difficult to deny Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood if you accept Moses as a prophet, which is both the case for Jews and Christians. And if you wish to see more proof,
Yeah, see, all he said is that Jews and Christians accept Moses as a prophet. And if you accept Moses as a prophet, you have to accept Muhammad. He copied this from somewhere, put it up there, and it actually is contradictory to what he's arguing.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Whatever. Oh, look. It's trying to show that Moses. What this apologetic is trying to show that Muhammad is the prophet like Moses. That's what it's trying to do. And he just puts that up there.
And yet, what's really interesting is that the Muhammad himself only adopted the prophet like Moses argument for a brief while, and he abandoned it and threw it out as soon as he met the Jews, because the Jews said, "You can't be the prophet like Moses, you moron. You're from Ishmael. All of you Arabs are from Ishmael. You're the unloved son who was cast out, and you are the enemies of everyone." And then he invented a parallel prophecy of a prophet like Ishmael from among Ishmael's descendants, because the Jews shamed him into dropping his previous assertion. Now, because Muslims are shameless, they don't even listen to the Quran, because the Quran says that Ishmael, from among Ishmael's descendants, where they're supposed to be this special prophet from among his descendants, from among them. And it's even repeated twice, just like in the Bible. It's a parallel, a ripoff of the Bible. They go, nope, we're throwing out the Quran. We're going to run to the Bible and pretend that it somehow has something to do with Momo.
All right, so ignore that next slide. According to this slide, his argument is that the life of Moses is not well documented, even though this slide wants to say the life of Moses is well documented. That's how we know that Muhammad is the prophet like him. But his argument, not what he put on the screen, but his actual argument is a claim, right? A claim that Moses' life is not well documented. So if you accept that, if you accept him as a prophet, despite the lack of documentation, then you got to accept Muhammad. Now, Mary, is the life of Joseph Smith well documented?
It is extremely well documented.
Oh, he must be a true prophet. You have to accept him.
Yeah, he has to be a prophet.
Why is the life of David Koresh well documented?
Oh, very well documented.
Oh, he must be a true prophet too, right? That's our standard. It's how well his life is documented.
Absolutely.
If you accept Muhammad and the biographies written 150 to 250 to 500 years after the time he died, then you got to accept Joseph Smith, whose biographies are written within his own lifetime.
No, there's a guy named Branham who claims to be a prophet, and he started some heretical churches. And his life is so well documented. There are massive numbers of records, like physical recordings of his messages, which they play. Branham's The Message, actually, and they play his preaching. So you have to believe he's a prophet. He even claimed to make true prophecies, some of which were true, but they were stupid. Some of which, of course, he made up after the fact that he had made this prophecy, and people believed him, because that's what false prophets do, like Muhammad. But we have many, many records of him claiming to have made a prophecy after the prophecy had supposedly come true. And so clearly that's better documentation than anything we have for Muhammad's miracles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this guy, the only prophecies that he could prophecies you could think of were supposed superior knowledge of science. That's from Allah, not Muhammad. There aren't any. The only prophecies that Muhammad actually makes, generally speaking, are the end of the world is upon us. It's about to end, people. Get with it. That's about the only prophecies he makes, other than my armies will be victorious.
Well, there is
which
one.
Is whatever.
Now there is one in the Quran that's very important. Muhammad said that Allah is going to strike down and send a painful torment upon Mecca, and the followers of Muhammad would not sorrow, nor would they would not fear, nor would they sorrow. But everybody else would be wiped out, and that didn't happen. Like, just didn't happen. Muhammad got thrown out instead. Muhammad spent all this time saying that you will never throw out a true prophet. That all these pagans tried to expel the true prophets, but they never could. The true prophets always prevailed, and guess what? They expelled him.
And then the message was, all the prophets have been expelled.
No, that was never even a message. He never changed it. That's the funny thing.
Okay.
He did alter his narrative of Moses, because now he was living among Jews, and he couldn't say anymore that Moses came to his own people, whose own ruler, the Pharaoh, he called to Islam, and then whenever he didn't whenever he didn't convert to Islam, he lived among them in great persecution and chose a Qibla, and then Allah took the ocean and washed away the Pharaoh and all of his works. So every building that the Pharaoh had made was washed away. The Quran says this. And the people of Moses, who were not affected by this flood, took over the fountains and gardens the fountains and gardens that had previously belonged to Pharaoh and his people. All the pagans were exterminated in the first story. That story changed, and there are inserted, in only some of the accounts, there are inserted ones of send out my people, but there's still the entire other exchange with where either Pharaoh or his council says that the goal of Moses is to expel them. Even though in the current version, he goes, send out my people. And Moses turns to his council. Why, what does he want to do? Why, he wants to expel you. Because this was a written text from the beginning. Muhammad was constrained on what he could change. He could stick in new things, like what can make you understand what is, right? These are additions, but he couldn't change the text that was there. So all the stupid stuff he wrote before, it's still there. It just has like extra padding around it to try to keep you from noticing what was originally taught. So, yeah, Mecca still exists, correct? Mo is not a true prophet. There should have been torment.
And I'm pretty sure that boy died.
Out all the unbelievers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that boy died without the earth coming to an end as well.
And then was rebuilt by the Muslims. So.
All right, let's finish it off for real this time. The next 15 seconds or so we already watched.
Far better documented and more verifiable than that of Moses. So by this measure, it's very difficult to deny Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood if you accept Moses is a prophet, which is both the case for Jews and Christians. And if you wish to see more proof, many say that he was described in the Torah as a prophet yet to come and was arguably mentioned by name.
Many say this, right? Many say this, but and then many find
his holy
Mary, hold on. Many find him mentioned in the Torah. John 16:12, Isaiah 29:12. Those are the verses he puts on the screen. And Song of Solomon. Over here. Chapter 5, verse 16. Isaiah 42:19. Isaiah 42:13. Isaiah 21:13. I don't see any Torah on here. That's strange.
Nope. But Muhammad didn't know Allah doesn't know what the Torah is and thinks it's all of the Old Testament, even though the Zabur is separate from the Torah. So he really doesn't know what anything is. But yeah, so whenever it says the Holy Spirit, which they literally edited out, and that Muhammad apparently went to the disciples of Jesus. If Jesus hadn't left, Muhammad couldn't have come to his literal disciples right then. All right? Yeah. And Also, he is the false prophets in Isaiah 29:12.
Uh-huh.
So
They
Muhammad is
give their
false
book to the
prophet,
one who cannot read, saying, read this. And he says, I cannot read.
and those are supposed to be the people in defiance of God.
Uh-huh.
These are evil people. So Muhammad is an evil person in the Bible. And also, I love Isaiah 42 because it says that this individual will not raise his voice in the street, and it talks about how Muhammad used to shout until his face turned purple.
Mm-hmm.
In the sources, that he often raised his voice, and whenever he was preaching, he would shout until his face turned purple. Yet this is supposed to be him, that he doesn't raise his voice, that he's gentle. Is Muhammad gentle? So gentle that he would not even break a reed. Yet Muhammad ordered the murders of tons of people, and this is supposed to be him. So, and then again, Song of Solomon. Come on, we're playing sound matches at this point. So Muhammad, once again, is the dead wife of a prophet, and
I just want to read Isaiah 29, right?
Yeah.
I just want to read that for a second here.
It's funny.
Well, let's see. Let's just start at verse 1. It'll take me a minute since I'm starting at verse 1, but whatever. We're almost done. I'll indulge. I'm going to share the screen so you can see what I'm saying. What? Wait a minute.
It's really funny because there are verses there about going into darkness and delving. So it makes it sound like.
Oh, it does sound like Muhammad, doesn't it?
Yes. I'm like, oh, you want this to be Muhammad? Oh, this sounds like Muhammad. Let's read it, and then immediately they like frantically go away because it talks about evil delving.
All right, starting at verse 1, right?
I think you can jump ahead a little bit. Let me see. Whenever it talks about the scroll. Uh-oh, you're caught for me. Oh, no. Oops, I can't hear you at all. I can hear me. I can only hear me, and I'm checking the live stream now to see whether or not other people can hear you. So apparently they can only hear me. But I can read it. Maybe you'll come back. So, oh goodness, I'm in King James. Let's just jump to something other than King James. And as soon as you come back on, I'll let you take over. And it's going to be really distracting for me because I'm hearing myself delayed by an entire minute. So I'm talking over myself. All right. So, this was supposed to change to ESV. Here we go. Cool. I've got it. All right. Here we go. Astonish yourselves and be astonished. Blind yourselves and be blind. Be drunk, but not with wine. Stagger, but not with strong drink. For the Lord has poured out upon you a spirit of deep sleep, has closed your eyes, the prophets, and covered your head, the seers, and the vision of the Lord has come to you like the words of a book that is sealed. And when men give it to one who can read, saying, read this, he says, I cannot, for it is sealed. What is that? So it's been given to someone who can read, but the ones with the covered heads, the seers, and the blind eyes, their eyes of the prophets are blinded, and the heads of the seers are covered so that they are unable to receive revelation. And so, even though even though he is giving true prophecy, they cannot understand it. They are incapable of understanding it in spite of the trueness of this prophecy. And so this would have Muhammad being the one who cannot read, even though he is able to read because he is being blinded by God. And then when they give it to one who cannot read, saying, read this, he will say, I cannot read. Oh, look. Then there are the others, the ignorant. So you're either an ignorant person who is incapable of understanding vision, or you are a capable person who is blinded by God. And God said, because his people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and the fear of the commandment taught by men, for behold, I will again do wonderful things with these people, wonder upon wonder. The wisdom of their wise shall perish, and the discernment of their discerning shall be hidden. So this is all about condemnation. Here's the great part. You who hide deep from the Lord your counsel, whose deeds are in the dark. So that hide deep has an image of going into depths, underground, hiding deep from the Lord and your counsel, whose deeds are in the dark, who say, who sees us? Who knows this? So that is a condemnation of everything. I have no idea why his thing is dead, and he still isn't back yet. He is still frozen, but I will. Let's see if I can finish that out. If I have my phone somewhere, I do have my phone. Look at that. Let me tell him that he is broken, and there probably isn't anything else. Hang on. You are frozen. You are frozen. So maybe he will see that. And then there's like 5 minutes left of the video. So we might, oh wait, are you back? Oh, he's gone. That's impressive. Let's see if he's able to bring up my screen. And I bought the $800 Logos package, by the way. That was on sale for $800. So that was, oh, you're coming back. I can barely hear you, but you're broken up.
Yeah.
You're only kind of back. You're really breaking up. Can you see if you can play the rest of the video? If you can bring out the last of the video, we can finish it up. You can see whether or not it will actually, because it showed your screen fine. So if you can just bring it up and play it. Let me see if I can find the video here. See if I can figure out what the last. See if you can bring up the last, what is it, 20 seconds of the video? Back to the video, maybe? Nope, it's just thank you so much. That's it. Perhaps this video itself is a sign. That's literally it. We finished the video. So after that, he's just thanking everybody. So I think that we are ready to go.
And more verifiable than that of Moses. So by this measure, it's very difficult to deny Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood if you accept Moses is a prophet, which is both the case for Jews and Christians. And if you wish to see more proof, many say that he was described in the Torah as a prophet yet to come and was arguably mentioned by name. The overwhelming evidence points towards Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a prophet, and the one true religion being Islam. Thank you so much for watching.
We still can't hear you. It's crazy. All right. If you want to, I can't see the screen anymore because you pulled me off on the preview. I can only see it live over there. So if you can bring up any last super chats, I can talk to them. Oh, nope, I think we're finishing up. I think we're going to finish it up.
Who ate the apple? You ate the apple. The whole apple. Yes, the whole apple. You ate it. But a small seed, you left it. You put it back into the earth. What happened? Allah, through His power, caused that to grow and to give you how many apples? Thousands.
Poor Thaddeus, his face is frozen. But we'll see if whether or not he will be able to bring up the final Jake. But perhaps not. But we got to the very end of the video, so it's a perfect time for it to die. Die, crash and burn. His computer crashed and burned just like Islam did. That's how it worked, right? Oh, look, you're still frozen, but you're here. You're next to me. Hi, I can wave at you. You can't wave at me. Look at that. Oh, I got a laugh. I heard that one. Maybe your audio is a little... No, the audio is so horrible. See if you can play Jake's outro. We wouldn't want to miss that, would we? It's always my favorite part.
This ceaselessly. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me.